When a single father walked into that upscale Boston restaurant with only $50 to his name, he had no idea the millionaire CEO at the next table was watching his every move. What she did next didn't just change his evening, it rewrote his entire future. This is a story about dignity, second chances, and the kind of kindness that echoes across lifetimes. Stay with me until the end and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The October rain hammered against the windows of Bellissimo's, one of Boston's most quietly expensive Italian restaurants. The kind of place where the prices weren't listed on the menu and the waiters moved like dancers through candlelit tables. Outside, the wet streets reflected neon signs and the blurred headlights of passing cars. Inside, everything glowed with a warmth that felt both inviting and intimidating. Ethan Cole stood just inside the entrance, water dripping from his jacket onto the marble floor, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it over the soft jazz piano playing in the corner. He'd spent 40 minutes on 3 different buses to get here, clutching the address on his phone like a lifeline, second-guessing every decision that had led him to this moment. His daughter's voice echoed in his mind. "Daddy, you need a friend, someone who makes you smile like you make me smile." Lily, 7 years old, gap-toothed, and wise beyond her years. She'd found his phone 2 weeks ago, seen the dating app he'd downloaded in a moment of weakness at 3 in the morning when the loneliness felt like it might swallow him whole. She hadn't judged him. She'd just crawled into his lap, wrapped her small arms around his neck, and whispered, "It's okay to be happy again." So here he was, 42 years old, wearing his only dress shirt, the one he'd ironed 3 times that evening until the creases were sharp enough to cut, standing in a restaurant that smelled like rosemary and expensive wine, waiting for a woman named Jessica, whom he'd never met. The hostess approached, her smile professional and practiced. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" Yes, I think so, under Jessica Martin, or maybe Ethan Cole. I'm not sure who made it." His voice cracked slightly, and he hated himself for it. She glanced down at her tablet, her perfectly manicured nails scrolling through names. "Ah, yes, table for 2, right this way. Table for..." He followed her through the maze of tables, hyper-aware of everything. The couple to his left feeding each other bites of tiramisu, the group of businessmen laughing over bourbon, the elderly woman dining alone with a book propped against her wine glass. Every person seemed to belong here, every person except him. The hostess stopped at a small table by the window. "Your server will be right with you. Can I get you started with something to drink?" Ethan's throat was dry, but he knew water was free. "Just water, please." "Thank you." She nodded and glided away, and Ethan sat down carefully, as if the chair might collapse under the weight of his unworthiness. He pulled out his phone, 7:47 p.m. Jessica had said 8 o'clock. He was early. That was good, wasn't it? It showed he was responsible, punctual, interested. He opened his wallet beneath the table, counting the bills one more time even though he'd counted them 17 times already. $50, 2 20s, and a 10. It was supposed to be the emergency fund, the money he kept hidden in an envelope taped to the back of the bathroom cabinet for when Lily got sick, or the car broke down, or the landlord raised the rent again. But this felt like an emergency too, an emergency of the heart, of the soul, of whatever part of him had been dying slowly for the past 4 years since Sarah passed away. The waiter appeared, young, enthusiastic, with the kind of effortless confidence that came from never having worried about money. "Good evening. My name is Marcus, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Have you dined with us before?" "No, first time," Ethan said, trying to smile. "Wonderful. Well, our specials tonight are truly exceptional. We have a butter-poached lobster with saffron risotto, a 45-day dry-aged ribeye with truffle butter, and our chef's signature osso buco that's been braising for 18 hours. Can I start you off with some wine? Our sommelier just brought in a stunning Barolo. Actually, just water is fine for now," Ethan interrupted, feeling his face flush. "I'm waiting for someone." Marcus's smile didn't falter. "Of course, I'll bring that right out." Ethan watched him go, then glanced at his phone again. 7:51. 9 minutes. He tried to remember what Jessica looked like from her profile pictures. Blonde hair, bright smile, worked in marketing. They'd messaged for 2 weeks. their conversation starting safe and surface level before gradually deepening into something that felt almost real. She told him about her ex-husband, the one who'd left her for his dental hygienist. He told her about Sarah, about the cancer that took her in 11 months, about becoming a single father overnight, and learning to braid hair from YouTube videos while Lily cried in the bathtub because mommy used to make it look so easy. Jessica had said she admired him, that he was one of the good ones, that she couldn't wait to meet him in person. Around him, the restaurant hummed with life. At the table to his right, a man was down on one knee, holding a ring box while his girlfriend sobbed happy tears and the whole restaurant erupted in applause. Ethan clapped too, feeling the ache in his chest expand. Would he ever get there again? Would he ever be the man on his knee, certain enough in love to bet his whole future on it? His phone buzzed. His heart leaped. But it wasn't a text from Jessica saying she was running late, or that she was stuck in traffic, or that she'd just parked and was walking in. The message was short, brutal in its brevity. You actually showed up? I was kidding. You're really not my type. Good luck, though. Ethan stared at the screen, reading the words over and over, waiting for them to rearrange themselves into something different, something kinder. But they didn't. They just sat there, each letter a small knife. He looked up, scanning the restaurant as if Jessica might still appear, as if this might be some kind of test he could still pass. But the only people looking at him were the newly engaged couple, still glowing with joy, and they looked through him like he was invisible. The waiter returned with a tall glass of water, ice clinking against the sides. Here you are. Are you ready to order, or should I give you a few more minutes? Ethan's mouth moved, but no sound came out at first. He swallowed hard. Actually, could you just give me a few minutes? She's just running a little late. Of course, take your time. But time was the enemy now. Each second that passed was another second of humiliation, another moment of sitting alone at a table for two while the restaurant filled with laughter and love and everything he didn't have. He should leave. He should stand up, walk out, go catch the bus home, and pretend this never happened. But something kept him frozen in his seat. Pride or stubbornness, or maybe just the crushing exhaustion of giving up one more time. So he sat. He drank his water slowly, making each sip last. He studied the menu without really seeing it, his eyes blurring over prices that made his stomach twist. $42 for a pasta dish, $68 for chicken, $95 for the lobster special. $8.15, $8.23, $8.37. Other couples came and went, the engaged pair left in a shower of congratulations, the woman flashing her ring to everyone they passed. A family of 4 was seated nearby, the children arguing over whether to get pizza or pasta, while their parents exchanged the tired, content smiles of people who'd been married long enough to communicate in glances. Ethan pulled out his phone again, his thumb hovering over Lily's contact. She'd be in bed by now, staying with Mrs. Chen next door, probably already asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit. He wanted to hear her voice, to remind himself why he got up every morning at 5 a.m. to work the night shift at Moretti's Auto Repair. Why he skipped meals so she could have seconds. Why he kept trying, even when trying felt impossible. But calling her would mean admitting this was over, that he'd failed. Again. The piano player switched songs, something slow and melancholy that matched the ache in Ethan's chest. He closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him, and for just a moment he let himself remember. Sarah, laughing in the kitchen of their old apartment, flour in her hair from trying to bake bread from scratch. Sarah, 8 months pregnant, dancing with him to no music, her hand pressed against his chest to feel his heartbeat. Sarah, in the hospital bed, her skin paper-thin, whispering, "Don't stop living when I'm gone. Promise me, Ethan. Promise me you'll find joy again." He'd promised, but he'd lied. Because how could he find joy when every morning he woke up and she wasn't there? When Lily asked questions about heaven that he didn't know how to answer? When the loneliness was so thick he could taste it, metallic and bitter on his tongue? "Sir?" Ethan's eyes snapped open. Marcus was standing beside the table, concern creasing his young face. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to check. Are you still waiting for your companion? It's just that we have other parties waiting, and if you're not planning to order..." The implication was clear. Move along. This table isn't for people like you. Ethan felt something inside him crack. "I understand. I'll order something small and then I'll go. He grabbed the menu with shaking hands, scanning for the cheapest item. There, a side salad for $12. He could afford that. He'd have $38 left, enough to get Lily the new shoes she needed for gym class. I'll have the... Actually, a voice interrupted, smooth and clear as crystal. He'll have the house pasta and the sparkling lemonade. Ethan turned, startled. A woman was standing a few feet away near the table by the far wall. She was probably in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a simple twist, wearing a navy dress that looked effortlessly elegant. But it wasn't her appearance that struck him. It was her eyes. They were looking at him with something he hadn't seen in a long time. Recognition. Not of who he was, but of what he was feeling. "I'm sorry, miss," Marcus said, confused. "But this gentleman hasn't ordered." "I know," she said quietly. "I'm ordering for him. The pasta, the lemonade, and whatever he'd like for dessert. Put it on my tab." "Ma'am, that's very generous, but please," she said, and there was something in her voice, not commanding, but absolutely certain. "Just do it." Marcus glanced between them, then nodded and hurried away. The woman took a step closer, and Ethan could see her more clearly now. There were lines at the corners of her eyes, the kind that came from smiling, and a weariness in her posture that matched his own. "You don't have to do that," Ethan said, his voice rough. "I can pay for myself." "I know you can," she replied. "But you shouldn't have to. Not tonight." "You don't even know me." "No," she agreed, "but I saw the text. I saw your face when you read it, and I—" She paused, and for the first time her composure wavered. "I know what it's like to show up and give your whole heart to something, only to have it thrown back at you like garbage." Ethan's throat tightened. "It's fine. I'm fine. You're not. And that's okay." She glanced back at her own table where a half-finished glass of wine sat next to an untouched plate of food. "I came here tonight to celebrate a promotion I don't want, after a day full of people who smile to my face and resent me behind my back. I was sitting there wondering what the point of all this is. The success, the money, the respect. If at the end of the day, you're still just eating expensive food alone." She looked back at him, and her smile was sad but genuine. "So maybe this isn't charity. Maybe it's just one lonely person recognizing another." Before Ethan could respond, Marcus appeared with a steaming plate of pasta, pappardelle with wild mushrooms and herbs, the scent of garlic and butter making Ethan's stomach clench with hunger he'd been ignoring. The lemonade sparkled in its glass, tiny bubbles rising like captured stars. "Compliments of Ms. Montgomery," Marcus said, setting the dishes down with a flourish. Then he leaned in and added quietly, "She's one of our most valued guests. When she says something, we listen." The woman, Ms. Montgomery, gave Marcus a look that was half amused, half exasperated. "You're making me sound like a tyrant." "Never, ma'am, just influential." She shook her head and turned back to Ethan. "I'm going back to my table now. You don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not conversation, not even eye contact. Just eat. You look like you haven't had a good meal in a long time." She started to walk away, but Ethan heard himself speak before he could stop himself. "Wait." She paused, turning back. "Would you—" He couldn't believe he was about to say this. "Would you like to sit down? I mean, if you're eating alone anyway, and well, obviously I'm alone too." For a moment he thought she'd refuse, thought she'd give him a polite smile and a kind rejection, and disappear back to her corner of the restaurant where people like her belonged. But instead she smiled, a real smile this time, one that reached her eyes. "I'd like that very much." She returned to her table, picked up her wine glass and silverware, and crossed the restaurant to sit across from him. Up close, Ethan could see the exhaustion she carried, the weight of responsibilities he couldn't imagine. But he could also see the kindness, the genuine warmth that made her order food for a stranger. "I'm Ava," she said, extending her hand. "Ethan." He shook her hand, noticing how soft it was compared to his calloused palms. "And thank you. Really, you didn't have to do that." "Maybe I did it for me as much as for you," Ava said, settling into her chair. "Sometimes the hardest thing about having everything is realizing how little of it actually matters." Marcus appeared again, his expression now openly curious. "Miss Montgomery, Should I bring your entree to this table? Please. And bring Ethan whatever he'd like to drink. Something better than water. Actually, Ethan said quickly, the lemonade is perfect. Thank you. After Marcus left, an awkward silence settled between them. Ethan stared at the pasta, his stomach growling but his pride holding him back from taking a bite. Eat, Ava said gently. Please, it's going to get cold and their pasta is genuinely incredible when it's hot. It feels weird to eat when you're watching. Then I'll eat too. She waited for her plate to arrive, then picked up her fork and took a delicate bite of her chicken. See? No judgment, no expectations, just two people having dinner. Slowly, Ethan picked up his fork and twirled it through the pasta. The first bite was extraordinary, rich and earthy, and so much better than the instant ramen and peanut butter sandwiches that made up most of his meals. He closed his eyes involuntarily, savoring it. Good? Ava asked, amusement in her voice. Really good, he admitted. I can't remember the last time I had pasta that didn't come from a box. Then I'm glad I could give you that. She took another bite of her chicken, then said carefully, Can I ask what happened? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Ethan set down his fork, the brief joy of the food fading. Blind date, met someone online, talked for a couple weeks, thought maybe... He trailed off, shaking his head. Stupid. I should have known better. It's not stupid to hope, Ava said firmly. Hope is brave. Showing up is brave. That woman, whoever she is, she's the one who should be ashamed, not you. I spent 2 hours on buses to get here. Wore my only good shirt. Spent money I don't have on a meal I couldn't afford, all for someone who was probably laughing at me the whole time. The words came out bitter, and Ethan hated the sound of his own voice. Then she's a fool, Ava said simply. And her loss is my gain, because now I get to have dinner with someone who actually gives a damn. Ethan looked up at her, searching her face for mockery or pity, but found only sincerity. Why are you being so nice to me? Because someone was nice to me once when I needed it, Ava said, her voice softening. When I was 23, fresh out of business school, I showed up for a job interview at this prestigious firm. I'd borrowed money from 3 different friends to buy a suit, practiced my answers for weeks, taken 2 buses and a train to get there. And when I walked in, the receptionist took one look at me and said, Interviews are on the 3rd floor, but between you and me, honey, they're looking for someone who fits the culture. You might want to save yourself the embarrassment. She paused, taking a sip of her wine. I almost left. Almost walked right back out and gave up on the whole thing. But there was a woman in the lobby, older, elegant, clearly important. She'd heard the whole exchange, and she walked up to me and said, I'm on the board of directors, and I'd like to conduct your interview personally, right now. But I saying. She hired me on the spot, became my mentor, taught me everything I know. And when I asked her why, she said, because someone did the same for me, and the only way to repay that debt is to pass it forward. Ava met Ethan's eyes. So that's what I'm doing, passing it forward. I don't know how I'll ever pay you back, Ethan said quietly. You won't. You'll do what I did. You'll pass it forward to someone else when they need it. She smiled. Now, eat your pasta before I eat it for you. They fell into a more comfortable rhythm after that, the initial awkwardness dissolving as they ate. Ava asked about his work, and Ethan found himself talking about the auto shop, about the satisfaction of fixing engines and the pride he took in doing honest work. She didn't seem bored or condescending. She actually listened, asked follow-up questions, seemed genuinely interested. I used to want to be a doctor, Ethan admitted, surprising himself with the confession. Had a full scholarship to BU, everything planned out, but then my dad got sick, and someone had to pay the bills, and he shrugged. Life had other plans. Do you regret it? Ava asked. Ethan thought about it. Sometimes. But then I think about all the people whose cars I've fixed, all the single moms who were able to get to work because I stayed late to finish their repairs, all the families who could afford Christmas because I didn't overcharge them. Maybe that matters too. Maybe it's not about the title, doctor, mechanic, whatever. Maybe it's about showing up every day and trying to do right by people. That's a beautiful way to look at it, Ava said softly. Most people I know measure success by their bank account. You measure it by your impact. What about you? Ethan asked. What do you do? For the first time, Ava hesitated. I run a company, food products, organic, sustainable, that kind of thing. That sounds important. It pays well, she said carefully. But important? I'm not sure anymore. We just launched a new line of products that cost 3 times what most families can afford. We market them as accessible luxury, but the truth is they're only accessible to people who don't actually need to budget. And I sit in board meetings listening to people celebrate record profits while half the country can't afford groceries. Her voice had grown tighter, and Ethan could see the frustration simmering beneath her polished exterior. Sounds like you care more than you're supposed to, he observed. Is that a bad thing? No, it's the best thing. He took another bite of pasta, then added, For what it's worth, I think the world needs more people who get successful and then feel guilty about it, better than getting successful and not giving a damn. Ava laughed, a genuine, surprised sound. That's one way to look at it. They talked through the rest of dinner, the conversation flowing more easily than Ethan could have imagined. Ava told him about her impossible work schedule, the constant pressure to grow and expand and never be satisfied with enough. Ethan told her about Lily, about her gap-toothed grin and her obsession with collecting rocks, and how she'd named every stuffed animal in her collection after different types of pasta because she'd heard her dad talk about missing good Italian food. She sounds wonderful, Ava said, her smile warm. She's everything, Ethan replied simply. She's the reason I keep going even when everything else falls apart. When the waiter brought dessert, a slice of tiramisu they agreed to split, Ava pulled out her phone and showed him pictures of her own baby. The community garden she'd started behind her company's headquarters, where local families could come grow their own vegetables for free. This is what I actually care about, she said, scrolling through images of children with dirt-stained hands and smiling elderly people tending tomato plants. Not the quarterly earnings reports or the stock price. This, making sure people can feed their families with dignity. Then why don't you do more of it? Ethan asked. Because boards of directors don't care about community gardens unless they generate positive press and tax write-offs. Because shareholders want returns on investment, not feel-good stories. Because, she sighed. Because I'm tired, Ethan. Tired of fighting the same battles every day. Tired of being told that caring about people is soft or naive or bad business. But you keep fighting anyway. What else can I do? Give up? She shook her head. No, I'd rather be tired and fighting than comfortable and complicit. Ethan raised his lemonade glass. To being tired and fighting. Ava clinked her wine glass against it, her eyes bright. To being tired and fighting. As they finished their dessert, Ethan realized something startling. He was happy, not the forced, performative happiness he showed Lily when he was trying to convince her he was okay. Real happiness. The kind that made his chest feel light and his face hurt from smiling. When the bill came, Marcus discreetly placed it near Ava, and she paid without looking at the total. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a small white business card, sliding it across the table. Ava Montgomery, CEO, Montgomery Naturals, Ethan read aloud. Then he looked up at her, stunned. You're that Montgomery? The one who's on magazine covers and gives TED Talks? She winced slightly. Guilty. But I'd rather be Ava who bought you dinner than Ava Montgomery, CEO, if that's okay. I can't. You didn't have to. He stammered, overwhelmed. I wanted to, she said firmly, and I'm glad I did. This has been the best evening I've had in months. She stood, gathering her coat and purse. The card has my personal number on the back. If you ever want to talk, or if you need anything, and I mean anything, Ethan, you call me, okay? I don't know what to say. Say goodnight. Say you'll take care of yourself. Say you'll remember that tonight wasn't about what you lost. It was about what you found. She smiled, then impulsively reached out and squeezed his hand. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. And then she was gone, gliding out of the restaurant with the same quiet grace she'd shown all evening, leaving Ethan alone at the table with an empty plate, a full heart, and a small white card that felt like a promise. He sat there for a long time after she left, staring at that card, reading her name over and over. The restaurant was closing now, the other diners long gone, the candles burning low. Marcus approached gently. "Sir, we're closing up for the night." "Right, sorry." Ethan stood, tucking the card carefully into his wallet next to the $50 he hadn't needed to spend. "Thank you for everything." "Miss Montgomery is a special person," Marcus said. "One of the good ones." "Yeah," Ethan agreed, his voice thick. "She really is." He walked out into the October night, the rain having stopped to leave the streets gleaming and clean. The buses had stopped running, but he didn't mind the long walk home. He needed the time to process what had just happened, to understand how a night that started with such crushing humiliation had ended with something that felt almost like hope. As he walked through the quiet Boston streets, past closed shops and sleeping houses, Ethan pulled out his phone and looked at Ava's card one more time. Then he typed out a text message, deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again. Finally, on the third try, he sent it. "Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible. I don't know how to repay kindness like that, but I promise I'll try. Ethan." The response came faster than he expected. "You already did, by showing up, by trying, by being the kind of father who keeps believing in better days even when the world gives you every reason not to. Sleep well, Ethan. Tomorrow is a new day. Ava." Ethan smiled, slipping his phone back into his pocket. The walk home didn't seem so long anymore. The night didn't seem so dark, and for the first time in 4 years, the loneliness didn't feel quite so suffocating. When he finally reached Mrs. Chen's apartment at 1 a.m., she opened the door with a knowing smile. "Good date?" she asked in her accented English. "Better than good," Ethan replied. "Something I didn't even know I needed." He carried Lily home in his arms, her small body warm and trusting against his chest, and tucked her into bed with her stuffed rabbit, fettuccine, named after her favorite pasta. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "You were right, baby girl. Sometimes people do need friends, even daddies." That night, Ethan slept better than he had in months. And when he woke at 5 a.m. for his shift at the auto shop, the $50 was still in his wallet, Ava's card tucked safely beside it, and the memory of her kindness warming him like sunlight breaking through clouds. He didn't know it yet, but that white card would change everything. That one evening of unexpected grace would become the first thread in a tapestry of second chances, woven by two people who'd forgotten how to hope until they reminded each other. The story was just beginning. The morning after the restaurant, Ethan woke to find Lily sitting cross-legged at the foot of his bed, staring at him with the intense scrutiny only a 7-year-old could muster. "You're smiling in your sleep," she announced. "You never smile in your sleep." Ethan rubbed his eyes, the events of the previous night flooding back in vivid detail. The humiliation, the pasta, Ava's unexpected kindness. "I had a good dream, I guess." "About what?" "About..." He paused, unsure how to explain. "About meeting a new friend." Lily's eyes widened. "Did you go on your date? Did she like you? Is she pretty? Does she like pancakes? Can I meet her?" "Whoa, slow down." Ethan sat up, pulling Lily into his lap. "It's complicated, baby girl." "Adults always say that when they don't want to explain things," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Mrs. Chen says complicated just means messy but fixable." Ethan laughed despite himself. "Mrs. Chen is a wise woman." "So are you going to see her again?" He thought about Ava's card still in his wallet, still feeling like something precious and fragile he might accidentally break. "I don't know. Maybe." "You should," Lily said with absolute certainty. "Because you're smiling, Daddy, real smiling, not the pretend kind you do when you think I'm not looking." The observation hit him squarely in the chest. Had he really been that transparent? Had his daughter been carrying the weight of his unhappiness all this time? "I love you, Lily Bean," he whispered, pulling her close. "I love you more," she replied automatically. Then, squirming out of his arms, she added, "Now make me pancakes. The good kind with the chocolate chips, not the sad kind with just butter." Demanding little thing, aren't you? Mrs. Chen says women should know what they want and ask for it. She says that's called agency. Ethan shook his head, grinning. Remind me to stop letting you spend so much time with Mrs. Chen. Never! Lily shouted, racing toward the kitchen. As Ethan made pancakes in their tiny kitchen, the chocolate chip kind, because how could he refuse after that conversation? He found himself thinking about Ava. What was she doing right now? Was she in some enormous house, or did CEOs live in penthouses? Was she thinking about last night at all, or had it just been one small act of charity in a life full of them? His phone buzzed on the counter. For one wild moment, his heart leaped, thinking it might be her. But it was just a text from his boss at the auto shop. Rodriguez called in sick. Can you cover his shift, double time? Ethan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He'd been up until nearly 2 in the morning and was supposed to have the day off to spend with Lily. But double time meant double money, and Lily needed new shoes, and the rent was due in 10 days, and, "Daddy, the pancake is burning," Lily called out. He flipped it quickly, salvaging the slightly charred edges. "It's got character," he told her, sliding it onto her plate. "It's got burnt," she corrected, but ate it anyway, smothering it in syrup. Ethan texted back, "I'll be there in an hour." 3 days later, Ethan still hadn't called or texted Ava. The card sat in his wallet like a question he didn't know how to answer. What would he even say? Thanks for the pasta? Thanks for making me feel like a human being for 2 hours? Thanks for not pitying me even though I clearly deserved pity? He was under a Ford pickup, wrestling with a stubborn oil pan, when his boss Sal's voice echoed through the garage. "Cole, you got a visitor!" Ethan rolled out from under the truck, wiping grease from his hands. Visitors never came to the shop. Not for him. And there she was. Ava Montgomery stood in the doorway of Moretti's auto repair, looking impossibly out of place in her tailored gray suit and heels, a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. The other mechanics had stopped working to stare, and Ethan couldn't blame them. She looked like she'd stepped out of a different world entirely. "Hi," she said, and her smile was nervous. Actually nervous. "I hope this isn't weird. I know showing up at someone's workplace is probably breaking about 17 social conventions, but I was in the neighborhood and I thought—" "You were in the neighborhood?" Ethan interrupted, glancing around at the auto shop situated between a pawn shop and a liquor store in one of Boston's grittiest industrial areas. "This neighborhood?" Ava's cheeks flushed slightly. "Okay, I wasn't exactly in the neighborhood. I may have looked up where you worked, which sounds creepy when I say it out loud. God, this was a mistake. I should go." "No," Ethan said quickly, then lowered his voice as the other mechanics exchanged knowing grins. "No, please. I'm just surprised. Good surprised. Give me 2 minutes to clean up?" "Take your time." Ethan ducked into the small bathroom, scrubbing his hands with the industrial soap that never quite got all the grease out. He caught sight of himself in the mirror, hair disheveled, old t-shirt stained with oil, stubble from not shaving that morning. He looked exactly like what he was, a tired mechanic who hadn't slept well in years. When he came back out, Ava was examining a vintage Mustang on the far lift, her expression genuinely interested. 67? She asked, pointing at the car. 68, Ethan corrected. Good eye, though. Most people can't tell the difference. My dad used to restore old cars, she said softly. Before he died, he promised to teach me. We only ever got through identifying makes and models before... She trailed off, touching the Mustang's fender gently. I'm sorry, Ethan said. It was a long time ago. She turned back to him, her professional composure sliding back into place. I actually came here with a proposition, a business proposition, before your mind goes anywhere weird. Ethan's mind had, in fact, gone somewhere weird. He felt his face heat. Okay. Can we talk somewhere more private? Maybe grab coffee? Ethan glanced at Sal, who was pretending to work on an engine while obviously eavesdropping. His boss waved him off. Go, go. Young love waits for no man. We're not, Ethan stammered. Coffee sounds great, Ava cut in smoothly, saving him from further embarrassment. They walked to a small cafe 3 blocks away. The same kind of place Ethan usually avoided because even their regular coffee cost more than he liked to spend. But Ava ordered for both of them, a cappuccino for herself and something called a flat white for him, and insisted on paying before he could even reach for his wallet. You have to stop buying me things, Ethan said as they sat down at a corner table. Then you have to stop looking like you're going to argue every time I do it, Ava countered. It's exhausting. Despite himself, Ethan smiled. Fair enough. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee. Ethan had to admit, whatever a flat white was, it was delicious. So, Ava said finally, setting down her cup. My proposition. I'm listening. My company is launching a new product line. Kid-friendly, affordable. Actually affordable, not rich people affordable. Lunchbox items, healthy snacks, things that real families might actually buy and use. She pulled out her portfolio, flipping it open to show product mock-ups. But here's the problem. Everyone on my team developing these products went to private schools and grew up with trust funds. They have no idea what real families need or want. Every time we do focus groups, the feedback is that we're still missing the mark. And you think I can help with that? Ethan asked, confused. I think you're exactly who we should have been asking from the beginning, Ava said earnestly. You're a single parent. You budget carefully. You know what it's like to stand in a grocery store trying to figure out how to make $20 stretch for a week's worth of meals. You understand the gap between what products claim to offer and what families actually need. Ethan stared at the mock-ups. Colorful packaging, smiling children, promises of nutritious and easy and affordable. What's the price point? He asked. Right now, $4 to $5 per unit. He winced. That's too much. See? Ava said, leaning forward. That's exactly what I need. Honest feedback from someone who lives the reality we're trying to serve. I want to hire you as a consultant. A consultant, Ethan repeated flatly. Ava, I'm a mechanic. I fix cars. I don't know anything about product development or food manufacturing or whatever else goes into this. You know about being a parent. You know about stretching a budget. You know about standing in a grocery store at 9 p.m. after a double shift, trying to find something your kid will actually eat that won't destroy your bank account. She reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of his. That knowledge is worth more than any business degree. How much does a consultant make? Ethan asked carefully. Ava named a figure that made his coffee go down wrong. He coughed, eyes watering. You're joking. I'm absolutely not joking. That's the standard rate for... Ava, that's more than I make in 2 months at the shop. Then you're being criminally underpaid at the shop. She pulled out a contract, sliding it across the table. 20 hours a month. You can do most of it remotely. Surveys, product testing, feedback sessions. A few in-person meetings at our headquarters. Flexible schedule so you can work around Lily. Ethan's hands trembled as he picked up the contract. The money was staggering. With that kind of income, he could move them to a better apartment, get Lily into a better school district, maybe even start saving for the future. But something about it felt wrong. Why are you really doing this? He asked quietly. Ava met his eyes steadily. Because I meant what I said the other night, about passing it forward. Because I'm tired of surrounding myself with people who've never struggled and wondering why we can't seem to help people who are struggling. Because... She hesitated. Because in one evening, you reminded me why I started this company in the first place. Not for the profit margins or the stock price, but to actually make a difference. And I need someone to keep reminding me of that. You're not doing this out of pity. I'm doing this out of hope, Ava said firmly. Hope that maybe if I bring in voices that actually matter, we can create something that actually helps. Hope that success doesn't have to mean selling out. Hope that... She smiled sadly. Hope that showing up counts for something. Ethan read through the contract slowly, looking for catches or fine print, or some reason this couldn't possibly be real. But it was straightforward, generous, and exactly what she'd promised. There's one condition, he said finally. Name it. I meet your team first. If they treat me like some charity case or some token to make themselves feel good about helping the poor, I'm out. I won't be your performance of diversity or whatever corporate buzzword makes you feel better about inequality. Ava's smile was sharp and approving. Deal. And if any of them treat you that way, you have my permission to tell them exactly where they can shove their privilege. In those words? Especially in those words. Ethan signed the contract, his signature shaky but determined. As he handed it back, Ava's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing something softer underneath. Thank you,
she said quietly. For trusting me. I know you have no reason to. You bought me pasta, Ethan said. That's more trust than most people earn. They finished their coffee talking about logistics, when he could start, who he'd be working with, how they'd communicate. But underneath the practical details, there was something else building, something neither of them quite acknowledged. A connection that went beyond business propositions and corporate consulting. When they finally left the cafe, Ava's driver was waiting outside in a sleek black car. She caught Ethan staring. It's not as fancy as it looks, she said quickly. It's just easier than trying to park in the city. Ava, it's okay to be successful, Ethan said gently. You don't have to apologize for it. Don't I? She looked at the car, then back at him. When I'm standing next to someone who works 3 jobs just to keep their kid fed, it feels pretty obscene to have a driver. I work 1 job, Ethan corrected. Sometimes 2 if I pick up extra shifts. And I'm not judging you, Ava. I'm grateful to you. She studied his face for a long moment. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why did you show up that night? At the restaurant? You could have canceled when you got that text. You could have just stayed home. But you sat there for over an hour, alone, in a place where you clearly felt out of place. Why? Ethan considered the question carefully. Because my daughter asked me to try. Because I promised my wife I wouldn't stop living after she died. Because, he swallowed hard. Because giving up would have meant admitting that this is all there is. That I'm just a mechanic with grease under his nails who'll never be worth a second look. And I needed to believe, even for one night, that maybe I could be more than that. Ava's eyes shimmered. You are so much more than that. I hope you know that. I'm starting to, Ethan admitted. The driver opened the car door and Ava stepped toward it, then turned back impulsively. Would you and Lily want to come to the company's community garden this Saturday? We're doing a family planting day. Nothing fancy, just getting our hands dirty and teaching kids about where food comes from. Lily might enjoy it. She'd love it, Ethan said immediately. She collects rocks. She calls them her treasures. Then there will be plenty of treasures to find, Ava promised. I'll text you the details. As the car pulled away, Ethan stood on the sidewalk, holding the copy of the contract that would change his life, watching the woman who'd appeared out of nowhere and somehow seen through all his defenses to the person underneath. His phone rang. Sal's name flashed on the screen. You coming back, or did you run off to marry the rich lady? Sal's gravelly voice asked. Coming back, Ethan said, grinning despite himself. And we're not. It's complicated. Mrs. Chen's right, Sal said. Complicated just means messy but fixable. Now get back here. This Ford ain't gonna fix itself. That Saturday, Ethan woke early to find Lily already dressed, wearing her favorite overalls and rain boots, even though the forecast promised sunshine. I'm ready for the garden, she announced. I brought a bag for treasures. She held up a small canvas tote bag covered in markers drawings of flowers and butterflies. Ethan's throat tightened, seeing how much this meant to her. You look perfect, he said. But maybe eat some breakfast first? Pancakes? Always pancakes. They took the bus to Montgomery Natural's headquarters, which turned out to be a stunning glass and steel building with solar panels covering the roof and a living wall of plants cascading down one exterior side. The community garden was behind it, a sprawling space with raised beds, fruit trees, and a greenhouse that caught the morning light. Ava was already there, wearing jeans and a faded company t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, dirt already smudged on her cheek. She was showing a group of children how to plant tomato seedlings, her hands gentle and patient. Ms. Ava! Lily shouted, breaking free from Ethan's hand and running toward her. Ava looked up, and her face transformed with genuine delight. You must be Lily. Your dad has told me so much about you. He has? Lily looked back at Ethan suspiciously. Did he tell you about the time I accidentally flushed his phone down the toilet? He did not mention that, Ava said, laughing. But I'm glad you did. That's a story I need to hear. I was 3 and thought phones could swim, Lily explained seriously. They can't. Daddy was very sad. I was very broke, Ethan corrected, joining them. Hey, Ava. Sorry we're late. Bus issues. You're right on time, Ava assured him. She handed Lily a small pair of gardening gloves.
Want to help me plant some strawberries? Lily's eyes went wide. Real strawberries? That I can eat? Well, not today. They need time to grow. But in a few months, you can come back and pick them yourself. Daddy, can we? Please, please, please? We'll see, Lily Bean, Ethan said, not wanting to make promises he might not be able to keep. But Ava caught his eye and mouthed, Yes, you can. They spent the morning in the garden, Lily chattering nonstop while she helped plant seeds and collected every interesting rock she found. Other families were there too, a mix of Montgomery Naturals employees and community members all working together to tend the space. Ethan found himself paired with Ava at one of the raised beds, planting herbs. Their hands brushed in the soil, and neither of them pulled away as quickly as they might have. She's wonderful, Ava said quietly, watching Lily show another little girl her rock collection. You've done an incredible job with her. Most days I'm just trying not to screw up too badly, Ethan admitted. Single parenting is like fixing a car while you're driving it. You just hope you can keep all the parts working until you reach the next rest stop. But you keep driving, Ava observed. That's what matters. What about you? Ethan asked. Did you ever want kids? Ava's hands stilled in the dirt. I did. I do. I don't know. She sat back on her heels, staring at the herbs they'd planted. I was engaged once. We had it all planned out. The house, the kids, the golden retriever. But then my company started taking off, and he wanted me to step back, scale down, focus on family. As if I couldn't do both. As if wanting success meant I'd be a terrible mother. That's bullshit, Ethan said bluntly. Ava laughed, surprised. Thank you. I thought so too. So I called off the wedding, and he told everyone I was a cold-hearted workaholic who chose money over love. And maybe he was right. Maybe I am too ambitious, too driven, too much for someone who couldn't handle your greatness, Ethan interrupted. Don't let one asshole's insecurity define you. She looked at him with something close to wonder. How do you do that? Do what? Say exactly what I need to hear without making it sound like platitudes. Maybe because I actually mean it, Ethan said simply. They were interrupted by Lily running over, her hands full of rocks and dirt, her face glowing with joy. Daddy, Ms. Ava, look what I found. She opened her hands to reveal a small, perfectly smooth river rock, pale blue and shot through with white veins. That's beautiful, Lily Bean, Ethan said. But Ava's reaction was different. She went very still, staring at the rock with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read. Can I see it? Ava asked softly. Lily placed it carefully in Ava's palm. Ava turned it over slowly, running her thumb along the smooth surface. My mother used to collect stones like this, Ava said quietly. She'd find them on beaches and keep them in a bowl by her bed. She said each one was proof that even hard things could be made beautiful if you gave them enough time. What happened to her? Lily asked with the blunt curiosity of childhood. Lily, Ethan started, but Ava shook her head. It's okay. She died when I was 12. Cancer. Ava handed the rock back to Lily. You keep this one safe, okay? It's special. I will, Lily promised. I'll name it Ava Rock. This time tears did slip down Ava's cheeks, and she didn't wipe them away. I'd be honored. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of planting and laughter and the simple joy of working with your hands in the earth. As the sun climbed higher and families started to pack up, Ava pulled Ethan aside. I have a favor to ask, she said, and you can absolutely say no. Okay. Next week, we're doing the product testing I mentioned, trying out the new lunchbox items with real families. I was hoping you and Lily might be willing to participate. You'd get paid, obviously, and you'd get to keep all the products. It's just a few hours on a Wednesday evening. Lily would love that, Ethan said. Testing food? That's her dream job. Great, I'll send you the details. Ava hesitated. And maybe, after the testing session, would you want to grab dinner, just the two of us? Not business, not consulting, just... She trailed off, looking vulnerable in a way he'd never seen her before. Just two people who enjoy each other's company? Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. This was the moment he'd been both dreading and hoping for, the moment when they stopped pretending this was only about business.
I'd like that, he said. I'd like that a lot. Ava's smile could have powered the solar panels on the building. Good. That's really good. As Ethan and Lily rode the bus home that afternoon, Lily clutching her bag of treasures and already half asleep against his shoulder, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just happiness, but possibility. The sense that maybe his life wasn't written yet, that maybe there were still blank pages waiting to be filled with something beautiful. His phone buzzed with a text from Ava. "Thank you for today. You and Lily brought more joy to that garden than all the plants combined." He typed back, "Thank you for inviting us, for seeing us, for everything." Her response was immediate. Always. The week that followed was busy. Ethan started his consulting work, reviewing product prototypes and pricing strategies, filling out surveys about shopping habits and family needs. The team at Montgomery Naturals was initially wary. He could feel their skepticism, their barely concealed surprise that their CEO had brought in a mechanic to tell them how to do their jobs. But Ethan had promised Ava honesty, so he gave it to them. When they showed him a budget-friendly snack pack priced at $6, he pulled up his phone and showed them prices from the actual stores where he shopped. When they talked about convenient packaging, he explained that convenience didn't matter if you had to choose between buying their product or keeping the electricity on. At first they bristled, but slowly, grudgingly, they started to listen, because everything he said was true, and they knew it. On Wednesday evening, Ethan brought Lily to the product testing session. A dozen other families were there, representing different backgrounds and income levels. The Montgomery Naturals team had set up stations with different products, asking parents and kids to try them and provide feedback. Lily was in heaven, sampling fruit strips and cheese crackers and tiny containers of hummus. She filled out her feedback form with painstaking care, her 7-year-old handwriting shaky but earnest. Ethan watched Ava moving through the room, talking to each family, taking notes, really listening. This was her in her element, not in a boardroom making power moves, but on the ground, connecting with the people her company was supposed to serve. When the testing ended and the other families left, Ava found Ethan and Lily in the corner, where Lily was arranging her take-home products in precise rows. "What did you think, Lily?" Ava asked, kneeling down to Lily's level. "The apple cinnamon bars are too sweet," Lily said seriously. "And the cheese crackers are good, but the box is too big for my lunchbox. But I really like the hummus cups. Can you make them in more flavors?" "We absolutely can," Ava said, writing notes on her tablet. "What flavors would you like?" "Chocolate," Lily said immediately. "Chocolate hummus?" Ethan asked, horrified, but Ava was grinning. "Actually, that's brilliant. Sweet hummus dessert cups. Kids would love them, and parents would feel good because it's still protein-rich." She ruffled Lily's hair. "You just invented our next product line." Lily beamed. "Can I be on the box?" "Lily," Ethan said, embarrassed, but Ava just laughed. "Tell you what, if we make chocolate hummus, I'll send you the very first box." After they packed up Lily's products, Ethan walked her to Mrs. Chen's apartment. His neighbor opened the door with a knowing smile. "Date night?" she asked. "It's not. We're just," Ethan stammered. "Daddy has a girlfriend," Lily announced. "Her name is Ms. Ava, and she's beautiful and rich, and she lets me name rocks after her." "Lily!" Ethan's face burned. Mrs. Chen just patted his arm. "About time. You go. Have fun. Don't come home too early." "Mrs. Chen!" But she'd already shut the door, Lily's giggles echoing from inside the apartment. Ethan returned to Montgomery Naturals to find Ava changed out of her business casual into a simple blue dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked nervous. "Ready?" she asked. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere I hope you'll like." She led him not to some expensive restaurant, but to a small Thai place in Chinatown, the kind of spot with plastic chairs and fluorescent lighting and the most amazing smells wafting from the kitchen. "I know it's not fancy," Ava said quickly, "but the food is incredible, and it's actually affordable, and I thought—" "It's perfect," Ethan interrupted. "Stop apologizing for not being pretentious." They ordered too much food, pad thai and drunken noodles and green curry, and shared everything, talking between bites about everything and nothing. Ava told him about her early days building the company, sleeping in her office, living on vending machine coffee and determination. Ethan told her about the first time he changed Lily's diaper by himself, how he'd called Sarah's mother crying because he couldn't figure out which way the tabs went. "You know what I love about you?" Ava said suddenly. Ethan's heart stopped. "What?" "You're real. Everyone I meet either wants something from me or wants to impress me or wants to prove they're just as successful as I am. But you don't do any of that. You just are. Genuinely, completely yourself." "That's because I don't have the energy to be anyone else," Ethan said honestly. "I'm too tired for performances." "Good," Ava said firmly. "Don't ever change that." As they finished dinner, the conversation turned more serious. Ava told him about the pressure from her board to expand internationally, to focus on profit margins over impact. Ethan told her about the fear that kept him up at night, that he wasn't enough, that Lily deserved better, that he was failing her in ways he couldn't even see yet. "You're not failing her," Ava said softly. "She's happy, healthy, kind, and curious. That's not failure. That's triumph. Some days it doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like survival." "Maybe that's the same thing," Ava suggested. "Maybe triumph is just choosing to survive one more day." They walked back toward the Montgomery Naturals building where Ethan's bus stop was located. The October air was crisp, the city lights reflecting off the glass towers around them. Neither of them seemed eager for the evening to end. "I had a really good time tonight," Ava said as they reached the bus stop. "Me too," Ethan replied. "Best Wednesday evening I've had in, well, forever." They stood there awkwardly, neither quite sure how to end the night. Then Ava stepped closer, rising on her toes, and pressed a soft kiss to Ethan's cheek. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being you." Before Ethan could respond, she was walking away, her figure disappearing into the night, leaving him standing at the bus stop with his heart racing and his cheek burning where her lips had touched. His phone buzzed. "Same time next week?" He typed back immediately. "Absolutely." The reply came with a simple heart emoji, and Ethan found himself grinning like an idiot as he boarded the bus home. When he picked up Lily from Mrs. Chen's, his daughter took one look at his face and announced, "You're glowing, Daddy." "I'm what?" "Glowing, like a light bulb, like happiness." She grabbed his hand, swinging it as they walked home. "I like when you glow." "I like it too, Lily Bean," Ethan admitted. "I like it too." That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Ethan sat at their small kitchen table and looked at his life with new eyes. The consulting money was already making a difference. He'd been able to buy groceries without calculating every penny, had paid the electric bill 2 weeks early, had even put a little into savings. But more than the money, it was the hope that felt revolutionary, the sense that maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to want more than just survival, that maybe he deserved joy, companionship, love. His phone lit up with another text from Ava. "Can't stop thinking about tonight. Is that weird? That feels weird to admit." Ethan smiled, typing back. "Not weird. I'm thinking about it too." "Good. That's really good. Sleep well, Ethan." "You too, Ava. Sweet dreams." As Ethan finally climbed into bed, exhausted but content, he realized something profound. For the first time since Sarah died, he wasn't just surviving. He was living. Actually, genuinely living. And it felt like coming home. The weeks that followed took on a rhythm that felt almost normal, which was perhaps the most extraordinary thing of all. Ethan continued his consulting work, spending late evenings after Lily went to bed reviewing product samples and filling out detailed reports about what real families could actually afford and use. Ava read every word he wrote, implementing changes that shocked her development team but delighted focus groups. Their Wednesday dinners became a sacred tradition. Sometimes they went to restaurants. Sometimes they grabbed food trucks and ate in the park. Once, memorably, Ava showed up at the auto shop with takeout Chinese food, and they ate sitting on his workbench while he explained the difference between synthetic and conventional oil with an enthusiasm that made her laugh until she cried. "You really love this, don't you?" she'd said, watching him gesture with a spring roll. "The mechanics of things, understanding how they work." "There's something satisfying about fixing what's broken," Ethan had replied. About taking something that doesn't work and making it whole again. Ava had looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Yes, she'd said softly. I suppose there is. But they were careful. They kept their relationship, whatever it was becoming, quiet and undefined. Ethan because he was terrified of moving too fast and breaking something precious. Ava because her position as CEO made everything complicated, every personal choice a potential headline or scandal. It was a delicate balance, and for a while, it held. Then came the night everything shifted. It was a Thursday in late November, just after 10 p.m., and Ethan was 3 hours into a double shift when his phone rang. Mrs. Chen's name flashed on the screen, and his blood immediately ran cold. She never called this late unless something was wrong. Hello? Ethan, don't panic, Mrs. Chen said, which of course made him panic immediately. But Lily has a very high fever. I gave her medicine, but it's not coming down. She's asking for you. I'm on my way. He was already pulling off his coveralls, shouting to Sal that he had to leave. How high? 103.7, and she's saying her throat hurts very bad. Ethan's mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Call Dr. Harrison's after-hours line. Tell them I'm bringing her in. Already did. They say to take her to emergency room if fever goes higher. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He made it in 15, running 3 red lights and praying no cops were around. Mrs. Chen met him at her door with Lily bundled in blankets, her small face flushed and her eyes glassy with fever. Daddy, she whimpered, my throat feels like fire. I know, baby girl, we're going to fix it. He scooped her up, feeling the heat radiating off her small body. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. Call me when you know something, the older woman said, worry creasing her face. The emergency room was packed, crying babies, coughing adults, the fluorescent lights harsh and unforgiving. Ethan checked in at the desk, trying not to show his terror as the nurse took Lily's temperature again. 104.2, she said, her tone professionally neutral. We'll get her back as soon as we can. How soon is that? There are 2 critical cases ahead of her, probably an hour, maybe 2. 2 hours. Ethan looked down at Lily, who was starting to doze against his chest, her breath coming in small, pained gasps. 2 hours felt like eternity. He found a seat in the corner and pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He needed to tell work he wouldn't be back. Needed to cancel the morning shift he was supposed to start at 6 a.m. Needed to figure out. His thumb hovered over Sal's name in his contacts, then moved almost of its own accord to Ava's. He shouldn't call her. It was late. She was probably asleep. This wasn't her problem. They were friends, maybe edging toward something more, but they weren't at the call in a medical crisis stage yet. But his hands were shaking, and Lily was burning up, and he felt so completely alone in that sterile waiting room that he pressed call before he could talk himself out of it. She answered on the second ring. Ethan? What's wrong? Of course she knew something was wrong. It was 10:30 at night. I'm sorry to call so late. I shouldn't have bothered you. Where are you? Her voice was sharp, focused. Mass General Emergency Room. Lily has a fever that won't break and I'm 15 minutes away. Don't move. Ava, you don't have to. But she'd already hung up. True to her word, Ava walked through the emergency room doors exactly 14 minutes later, still wearing what looked like pajama pants under a long coat, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, looking more human and real than he'd ever seen her. She didn't ask questions. She just sat down next to him, close enough that their shoulders touched, and reached over to stroke Lily's sweat-dampened hair. Hey, sweetheart, she whispered. You're going to be okay. Lily's eyes fluttered open. Miss Ava, why are you here? Because your dad needed a friend, and so do you. My throat hurts, Lily said, her voice barely audible. I know, baby. Ava looked at Ethan. Have they said what they think it is? Not yet. We're waiting to be seen. Ava's jaw tightened. She stood up, walked to the nurse's station, and Ethan watched in amazement as she spoke quietly to the charge nurse. He couldn't hear what she said, but he saw the nurse's eyes widen, saw her nod, and pick up a phone. 5 minutes later, a doctor appeared. Cole family. Ethan stood up so fast he nearly dropped Lily. That's us. Let's get your daughter examined. As they followed the doctor back, Ethan shot Ava a questioning look. She just shrugged innocently, but he knew. Somehow, she'd made this happen. The examination was thorough but quick. Strep throat, the doctor confirmed. Nasty, but treatable. Antibiotics, fever reducers, plenty of fluids. Lily would feel miserable for a few days, but she'd be fine. The relief was so overwhelming, Ethan had to sit down, his legs suddenly unable to hold him. You did good bringing her in, the doctor said, writing prescriptions. Another few hours, and this could have gotten more complicated. As it is, start these meds tonight, and she should turn a corner by morning. They left the hospital just after midnight, Lily already drowsy from the fever reducer they'd given her, the prescriptions clutched in Ethan's hand. Ava had stayed through everything, not saying much, just being present in a way that made all the difference. Thank you, Ethan said as they stepped out into the cold November air. For coming. For whatever you said to that nurse. For everything. I didn't do anything, Ava said, but her smile was tired. Just reminded them that sick children shouldn't have to wait hours to be seen. How did you even get here so fast? I live 3 blocks away, and I wasn't sleeping anyway. Too much on my mind. She looked at Lily, asleep against Ethan's shoulder. Do you have a way to get home? The tea stops running soon. We'll take a cab. It's fine. My car is here. Let me drive you. Ava, please, Ethan. Let me help. He was too exhausted to argue. The drive to his apartment was quiet. Lily dozing in the back seat, Ethan giving directions in a voice rough with emotion. When they pulled up to his building, a rundown triple-decker in a neighborhood that had seen better days, he felt a flash of embarrassment. This was his reality. Not fancy restaurants or community gardens or glass office buildings. This. But Ava didn't even blink. She just helped him get Lily out of the car and followed him up the narrow stairs to his second-floor apartment. Inside, the place was exactly what it was. Small, cramped, clean, but shabby. The furniture was garage sale finds and hand-me-downs. The walls needed paint. The kitchen was barely big enough for one person, but it was home, and it was theirs. Lily's room is here, Ethan said, carrying his daughter to the small bedroom with its twin bed and walls covered in crayon drawings. He laid her down gently, pulling the covers up to her chin. Ava appeared in the doorway with a cool washcloth. For her forehead, it'll help.
Błaciny.
Maten. Together, they tended to Lily, getting the first dose of antibiotics into her, changing her into fresh pajamas, making sure she had water within reach. It felt domestic and intimate in a way that made Ethan's chest tight. When Lily was finally settled and breathing easier, Ethan walked Ava back to his tiny living room. Can I make you tea or something? He asked. It's the least I can do. Tea would be nice. He boiled water in his ancient kettle while Ava sat on his threadbare couch, looking completely out of place and yet somehow perfectly at home. He handed her a chipped mug with a tea bag still steeping. Sorry about the mug. Matching sets are a luxury I haven't gotten to yet. It's perfect, Ava said, wrapping her hands around it. Everything here is perfect. You don't have to lie, Ethan said, sitting down next to her. I know it's not much. It's a home, Ava said firmly. It's filled with love and care and evidence of a good life being lived. That's more than most of the expensive houses I've been in can claim. They sat in silence for a while, sipping their tea, the only sound the occasional cough from Lily's room and the distant traffic outside. I was terrified tonight, Ethan admitted suddenly. When Mrs. Chen called and said Lily had a fever, all I could think about was Sarah. How she got sick and we thought it was just a flu and then it wasn't and then she was gone. And I thought, his voice cracked. I thought I can't do this again. I can't lose someone else I love. Ava set down her tea and took his hand, lacing their fingers together. You're not going to lose her. She's going to be fine. But what if she wasn't? What if something happened and I was at work and I wasn't there and... Ethan, stop. Ava turned to face him fully. You can't live in the what-ifs. Trust me, I've tried. You'll drive yourself insane thinking about all the ways things could go wrong. Sometimes you just have to trust that they'll go right. That's hard for me, Ethan said quietly. I know, but you're not alone anymore. She squeezed his hand. You have people who care about you. Mrs. Chen, your boss, me. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. I'm not used to having help. Then get used to it, Ava said, and there was steel in her voice. Because I'm not going anywhere. Ethan looked at their joined hands, at this woman who'd shown up in pajama pants in the middle of the night without hesitation, who'd sat through hours in an emergency room for a child who wasn't hers, who'd driven them home and helped him care for Lily as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Why? He asked. Why do you care so much? Ava was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because when I look at you, I see someone who's been broken and put themselves back together with nothing but willpower and love. And I think, she paused, swallowing hard, I think maybe if someone like that can do it, maybe I'm not as broken as I thought I was. You're not broken, Ethan said. Neither are you, but we're both healing, aren't we? From things that hurt us, from losses that changed us. She met his eyes. Maybe we can heal together. Ethan didn't remember who moved first. Maybe they both did. But suddenly Ava was in his arms and he was holding her like she was precious and fragile and strong all at once. And she was holding him back with the same fierce tenderness. I'm scared, he admitted into her hair. Me too, she whispered back. But I'm more scared of not trying. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other in the dim light of his living room. Two people who'd been alone for so long, they'd forgotten what it felt like to be held. Eventually, Ava pulled back, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I should go. Let you get some rest. You could stay, Ethan said, then quickly added, on the couch. I mean, it's late and you're tired and I'd like that, Ava interrupted softly. He found her an extra blanket and pillow, apologizing again for how worn they were. She just smiled and told him they were perfect. As he turned to go to his own room to check on Lily, she called out, Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for calling me, for trusting me enough to let me be here. Thank you for coming, he replied, for being someone I could call. He checked on Lily. Her fever had already started to drop, her breathing easier, before collapsing into his own bed. But sleep didn't come easily. He kept thinking about Ava in his living room, about the way she'd held his hand, about the possibility of healing together. Around 3 a.m., he heard a sound from Lily's room. He got up quickly, finding her sitting up in bed, her eyes clearer than they'd been all night. Daddy? I'm here, baby girl. How do you feel? Better. Still hurts, but better. She looked past him to the doorway. Is Miss Ava still here? She's sleeping on the couch. Good, Lily said, settling back into her pillows. I like when she's here. The apartment feels less empty. Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought, tucking her back in. Me too, Lily Bean, me too. When Ethan woke the next morning, the smell of coffee filled the apartment. He stumbled into the kitchen to find Ava making eggs and toast, looking rumpled and beautiful in yesterday's clothes. I hope you don't mind, she said. I figured you'd need breakfast. I mind that you're doing all the work while I slept. You needed the sleep. Besides, I found your good pan. She held up his only non-stick skillet. I'm making do. They ate breakfast together while Lily slept in, recovering. Ava told him she'd already called her office and cleared her schedule for the day. You don't have to do that, Ethan protested. I want to. Unless you'd rather I leave? No, he said quickly. Stay, please. So she stayed. She stayed through that whole day, entertaining Lily with card games and stories when the little girl woke up, helping Ethan administer medications, making lunch from the limited groceries in his fridge. She stayed through the afternoon when Lily's fever spiked again briefly, and Ethan paced nervously until the medicine kicked in. She stayed through dinner, which they ordered in because none of them had the energy to cook. And when evening came and Lily was finally sleeping peacefully, truly on the mend, Ava stayed for one more cup of tea on the couch. You're really good with her, Ethan said, watching Ava through the steam rising from his mug. With Lily, I mean. She's easy to be good with. She's a remarkable kid. She likes you too. Last week she told me she hopes you'll be her mom someday. Ethan's face burned. I told her she couldn't just decide who my girlfriend was, and she said, why not? You're being too slow about it. Ava laughed, the sound bright and surprised. out of the mouths of babes. That's what I thought, Ethan said. Then gathering his courage, he added, for what it's worth, she's not wrong. About the going slow part. What are you saying? Ava asked, her voice careful. I'm saying that I really like you. That when you called me at that restaurant, I thought you were just being kind. But now I think maybe you saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I'm saying that terrifies me because I've already lost so much, and the thought of losing you, too. He stopped, overwhelmed by the emotion closing his throat. Ethan, Ava said softly, setting down her tea. You're not going to lose me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now. But what happens when you realize I'm just a mechanic with a kid and a tiny apartment and nothing to offer you? What happens when your friends or your board or whoever thinks I'm not good enough? What happens when— Stop, Ava said, and this time there was fire in her voice. Stop deciding for me what I want or what I can handle. I'm a grown woman who built a company from nothing. I think I can decide for myself who I want in my life. And you want me? Ethan asked, his voice small. I want you, Ava said firmly. I want Wednesday dinners and stupid jokes about engine parts. I want to help you with Lily when she's sick. I want to hear about your day and tell you about mine. I want— She stopped, took a breath. I want to try this. For real. Not just as friends, not just as business associates. I want to be with you, Ethan Cole. If you'll have me. Ethan's answer was to close the distance between them and kiss her, softly at first, then deeper as she responded, her hands coming up to frame his face. It was their first real kiss, and it tasted like tea and hope and the promise of something neither of them had dared to dream of. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ava was smiling through tears. So is that a yes? She asked. That's a yes, Ethan confirmed. That's absolutely a yes. They stayed up late into the night, talking about what this meant, what they wanted it to look like. They agreed to take things slow for Lily's sake, to be careful about how they presented their relationship publicly given Ava's position. But they also agreed that they were done pretending this was anything other than what it was. I have to tell you something, Ava said around midnight, when they were both getting punchy with exhaustion, about why I came to that restaurant the night we met. Okay, Ethan said cautiously. I told you I'd had a bad day, that I was celebrating a promotion I didn't want. But that wasn't the whole truth. She took a deep breath. I'd gone there to meet someone. A man my board had suggested I network with, which was code for date someone more appropriate to your status. He was a venture capitalist, Yale educated, came from old money, everything I was supposed to want. What happened? He never showed up. Sent me a text that said I was clearly too invested in my work to be interesting company. She laughed bitterly. So there I was, stood up in my favorite restaurant, feeling sorry for myself. And then I looked over and saw you. Saw someone else who'd shown up with hope and been disappointed. And I thought, there's someone who understands. So we were both stood up that night, Ethan said slowly. We were both stood up by the wrong people, Ava corrected, so that we could find each other. I don't believe in fate, Ethan said. Neither do I, Ava replied. But I believe in showing up, and we both did that. They kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. When Ava finally left around 1 a.m., insisting she had to go home and change for work, Ethan walked her to her car. Thank you, he said, for everything, for last night, for today, for being exactly who you are. Thank you for letting me, Ava replied. She kissed him one more time, then pulled back with a mischievous smile. Also, you should know I'm absolutely terrible at going slow. I'm already planning our future in my head. Yeah? Ethan grinned. What's it look like? Happy, Ava said simply. It looks really, really happy. After she drove away, Ethan went back upstairs to find Lily standing in the living room clutching Fettuccine the rabbit. I saw you kissing Ms. Ava, she announced. Lily, you should be asleep. Are you going to marry her? Baby girl, we just started dating. Marriage is a long way off. But you will, right? Eventually? Lily's eyes were hopeful and certain in the way only a child's could be. I don't know, Ethan said honestly, but I hope so. Would that be okay with you? It would be really okay, Lily said,
Then she hugged him tight. I'm glad you're not sad anymore, Daddy. Me too, Lily Bean. Me too. The next few weeks were a blur of happiness Ethan had forgotten was possible. He and Ava saw each other every chance they got. Quick coffee dates before work, stolen lunch hours, evening calls after Lily went to bed. They were careful about public appearances, but privately, they were building something real and solid. Lily was delighted, of course. She immediately began referring to Ava as my friend Ms. Ava, with an emphasis that made it clear she thought they were all but engaged already. And Ava, to her credit, never made promises she couldn't keep, but she showed up. For Lily's school play where she sat next to Ethan and cried at all the same parts. For Lily's dentist appointment when Ethan had to work late. For pizza nights and homework help and bedtime stories. She was becoming part of their life, woven into the fabric of their days, and it felt natural in a way Ethan hadn't expected, but he should have known it couldn't last without complications. The call came on a cold December morning while Ethan was at the shop, Ava's assistant, her voice apologetic and stressed. Mr. Cole? I'm calling on behalf of Ms. Montgomery. There's been a situation. Ethan's blood ran cold. What kind of situation? Is she hurt? No, nothing like that. But there's been a leak. Someone told the press about your relationship with Ms. Montgomery. There are reporters outside the building, and they're asking questions about conflicts of interest and improper consulting arrangements. Ms. Montgomery wanted me to warn you before, but it was too late. Ethan looked up to see a woman with a camera standing in the doorway of the auto shop, a man with a notepad behind her. Are you Ethan Cole, the consultant for Montgomery Naturals? Can you comment on your romantic relationship with CEO Ava Montgomery? Sal appeared from the back office, his expression thunderous. Get the hell out of my shop. We don't talk to press here. But the reporters didn't leave. They stayed outside, cameras ready, waiting. Ethan pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Ava. She answered immediately. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I don't know how they found out. My PR team is handling it, but what do we do? He asked. Nothing. You do nothing. Don't talk to them. Don't give them anything. I'll fix this. How? There was a pause. I don't know yet, but I will. I promise. But as Ethan hung up and stared at the reporters camped outside his workplace, he had a sinking feeling that some things couldn't be fixed. That maybe they'd been living in a bubble and reality was finally catching up. That night, the story broke online. Food CEO's conflict of interest, dating her own consultant. The articles made it sound sordid and calculated, implying Ethan had used Lily to manipulate Ava, that Ava had hired him as a cover for an affair, that the whole thing was a scandal waiting to explode. None of it was true. But truth didn't seem to matter. Ethan sat on his couch, scrolling through article after article, each one worse than the last. His phone was ringing constantly, reporters, numbers he didn't recognize, even his landlord asking if the media circus would affect his lease. When Ava finally arrived at his apartment near midnight, she looked devastated. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. My board is furious. They want me to... She stopped, unable to finish. Want you to what? Ethan asked, though he already knew. End the consulting arrangement. Issue a statement that our relationship was a mistake in judgment. Distance myself from you publicly. Tears streamed down her face. They say it's the only way to save the company's reputation. Then do it, Ethan said, his voice hollow. What? Do what they're asking. I'm not worth destroying everything you've built. Ethan, no. Ava, look at me. He gestured at himself, at his shabby apartment, at the life he led. I'm a mechanic with a daughter and debt and nothing to offer you but complications. Your board is right. This is a conflict of interest. We should have seen this coming. I don't care what they think, Ava said fiercely. But I do, Ethan replied quietly. Because I care about you, and I won't let you sacrifice everything for me. They argued through the night, both of them exhausted and scared and saying things they didn't mean. By the time the sun rose, they'd reached an impasse. I won't end this, Ava said, her voice raw. I won't give up on us because other people are small-minded and cruel. And I won't let you destroy your life for me, Ethan countered. So where does that leave us? Ava stood gathering her coat. At the door, she turned back.
It leaves us having to decide what matters more, them or us. After she left, Ethan sat alone in his apartment, wondering if love was ever really enough when the whole world was determined to pull you apart. And for the first time since that night in the restaurant, he felt truly, utterly alone again. The morning after Ava left brought no clarity, only a hollow ache that settled in Ethan's chest and refused to leave. He got Lily ready for school on autopilot, making her breakfast and packing her lunch while she chattered about the upcoming winter concert and whether Ms. Ava would come watch her sing. "I don't know, baby," Ethan said, his voice tight. "Ms. Ava is very busy." Lily stopped mid-bite of her toast, studying him with those two perceptive eyes. "Did you have a fight?" "Something like that." "Are you going to fix it?" "I don't know if I can," Ethan admitted. Lily set down her toast with the solemnity of someone much older than 7. "Mrs. Chen says anything worth having is worth fighting for." "Are you going to fight for Ms. Ava?" "It's more complicated than that, Lily Bean." "That word again," Lily said, shaking her head. "Adults make everything complicated." After dropping Lily at school, Ethan arrived at the auto shop to find the reporters still there, though fewer than yesterday. They shouted questions as he walked past, cameras flashing, and he kept his head down and his mouth shut just like Ava had told him to. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. His co-workers avoided eye contact, and Sal called him into the office before his shift even started. "We need to talk," Sal said, closing the door. Ethan's stomach dropped. "If you need to let me go, I understand." "Let you go? Kid, I'm not firing you. You're my best mechanic." Sal sat down heavily in his creaky office chair. "But those reporters are bad for business. Customers don't want to come here when there's cameras everywhere. And I got a call this morning from some PR firm offering me money to talk about you." "I'm sorry," Ethan said. "I never meant for any of this to—" "I told them to shove it," Sal interrupted. "Told them you're a good man and they should be ashamed of themselves for trying to destroy someone's life for clicks and views. But Ethan, you gotta understand, this can't go on forever. Either this dies down or we're going to have a problem." "I'll fix it," Ethan promised, though he had no idea how. The day crawled by in a haze of oil changes and tire rotations, punctuated by periodic glimpses of the reporters still lurking outside. Ethan's phone buzzed constantly with calls from unknown numbers, texts from distant relatives he hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly interested in his life, and exactly 0 messages from Ava. That silence hurt more than anything else. By the time his shift ended, Ethan was exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. He was soul-weary, ground down by the weight of impossible choices and the crushing awareness that maybe he'd been foolish to think someone like Ava could really be part of his life. He picked up Lily from Mrs. Chen's, endured her knowing looks and gentle questions, and made it back to his apartment just as his phone finally rang with the call he'd been both dreading and desperate for. "Ethan," Ava's voice was strained, formal. "Can we talk?" "Yeah, of course." "I'm downstairs, in the car. Can you come down?" "I don't want to, with the reporters possibly following." Ethan told Mrs. Chen he'd be right back and headed downstairs to find Ava's car idling by the curb. He slid into the passenger seat and they sat in silence for a long moment, neither quite able to look at the other. "My board met today," Ava finally said. "They've given me an ultimatum. Either I end the consulting arrangement, issue a public statement distancing myself from you, and focus solely on the business, or they'll call for a vote of no confidence. They can do that? They can try. And with the current media narrative, they'd probably succeed." She turned to face him, and her eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. "I could lose my company, Ethan. Everything I've built for 15 years could be gone because we fell in love." The word hung between them, spoken aloud for the first time. Love. "Then you know what you have to do," Ethan said quietly. "Do I? Because I've been thinking about it all day, running every scenario, and I keep coming back to the same question. What's the point of success if I have to give up everything that makes me happy to keep it?" "Ava, no, let me finish. I started Montgomery Naturals because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to create products that actually helped families, that made healthy food accessible, that proved you could run a business with integrity and still succeed. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about that and started being about quarterly earnings and stock prices and keeping board members happy. And I forgot why I started in the first place. She reached over and took his hand. You reminded me, Ethan. You and Lily reminded me what actually matters. Not the money or the status or the magazine covers. Just showing up for people. Being there. Choosing connection over convenience. That's beautiful, Ethan said, his throat tight. But it doesn't change the reality. They'll destroy you. They'll destroy your company. Everything you've worked for will be gone. Then maybe it deserves to be gone, Ava said, and there was steel in her voice now. Maybe if the price of keeping my company is giving up my integrity and the people I love, then it's not worth keeping. You can't mean that. I do mean it. I'm tired, Ethan. I'm tired of performing for board members and shareholders and people who measure worth in dollar signs. I'm tired of being told that caring about people is soft or unprofessional. I'm tired of living a life that looks perfect on paper but feels empty every single day. So what are you saying? Ava took a deep breath. I'm saying I called my lawyer today. I'm saying I have options. I can buy out the board, restructure the company, take it private. It'll cost me almost everything I have, and it'll take months, maybe years to rebuild. But I can do it. I can create something that's actually mine, that answers to no one but me. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You'd give up that much? For this? For us? I'm not giving it up, Ava corrected. I'm choosing something different, something better, a company that actually lives up to its values, a life that's about more than just success. She squeezed his hand. But I need to know if you're with me, if you're willing to weather this storm together, because it's going to get worse before it gets better. Ava, I'm a mechanic with $50 to his name. I can't help you fight board members and lawyers and PR firms. I can't even afford my own lawyer if someone decides to sue me for this mess. I'm not asking you to fight my battles, Ava said. I'm asking you to stand beside me while I fight them myself. I'm asking you to believe that we're worth the trouble, that what we have is real enough to be worth protecting. Ethan thought about Lily's words that morning. Anything worth having is worth fighting for. He thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made to keep living, to find joy again. He thought about that night in the restaurant when a stranger had seen him and decided he deserved kindness. I'm terrified, he admitted. So am I, Ava replied, but I'm more terrified of living a safe, comfortable life without you in it. Ethan leaned across the console and kissed her, pouring everything he couldn't say into that one gesture. When they pulled apart, they were both crying. Okay, he said. Okay, we do this together. Together, Ava agreed. They sat in the car talking until late, making plans and acknowledging fears, and sometimes just holding hands in silence because words weren't enough. When Ethan finally went back upstairs, he found Lily and Mrs. Chen waiting up for him. Did you fix it? Lily asked immediately. We're trying, Ethan said. It might take a while, it might get messy, but we're trying. Lily threw her arms around him. Good, because I really like Ms. Ava, and I think she really likes us too. She does, baby girl, she really does. The next week was chaos. Ava went to war with her board, and the media ate it up. Headlines screamed about corporate coup attempts and love scandals and CEOs gone rogue. Ethan's name was everywhere, dissected and analyzed and frequently misspelled. Reporters camped outside his apartment building until the landlord threatened to call the police. Through it all, Ava stood firm. She held a press conference where she calmly explained that yes, she was in a relationship with her consultant, and yes, she should have disclosed it earlier, but no, it didn't change the quality of his work or the integrity of her company. She announced her intention to buy out the board members who opposed her and restructure Montgomery Naturals to better reflect its founding values. I started this company to make a difference, she said into the cameras, her voice steady and clear. Not to make people comfortable with my personal choices. And if some of you can't separate a woman's professional competence from her romantic life, then that says more about your biases than it does about my leadership. The clip went viral. The responses were mixed. Some praised her courage, others condemned her arrogance. But Ava didn't seem to care about the opinions anymore. She'd drawn her line in the sand. Meanwhile, Ethan continued showing up to work every day, head down, doing his job while the world speculated about his motives and his worth. Some customers avoided him now, made uncomfortable by the attention. Others went out of their way to support him, telling him they thought the whole thing was ridiculous and he should keep his chin up. Sal, bless him, stayed loyal. "Anyone gives you trouble, you send them to me," he'd said. "I'll tell them exactly what kind of man you are." The hardest part was Lily. She didn't fully understand what was happening, just that some people were saying mean things about her daddy and Ms. Ava on the internet. Ethan tried to shield her from the worst of it, but kids at school had parents who watched the news, and questions got asked. "Tommy's mom said, 'You're only dating Miss Ava for her money,'" Lily reported one afternoon, her voice small. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's not true, Lily Bean." "I know. I told her you already loved Ms. Ava before we even knew she was rich. I told her about the restaurant and the pasta and how Ms. Ava came when I was sick." Lily paused. "She said I was making excuses for you." "Hey." Ethan pulled the car over, turning to face his daughter. "Look at me. Some people are going to believe whatever they want to believe, no matter what the truth is. And that's their problem, not ours. You know who I am. You know why I care about Ava. That's all that matters." "But what if everyone thinks bad things about you?" "Then I'll know who my real friends are," Ethan said simply. "The people who stick around, who believe in us even when it's hard. Those are the people worth keeping." Lily nodded slowly, then asked, "Is Ms. Ava a real friend?" "She's the realest one I've got," Ethan said honestly. 3 weeks after the story broke, Ava called with news. "It's done. The board members who wanted me out have accepted my buyout offer. I own 60% of the company now. It's officially mine." "Ava, that's incredible," Ethan said, relief flooding through him. "It's also terrifying," she admitted. "I just spent most of my personal fortune on a company that's currently embroiled in scandal. Every business analyst says I'm making a huge mistake. My parents won't return my calls. Half my staff is considering leaving." She paused. "But it's mine, Ethan, and I can finally run it the way it should be run." "What happens now?" "Now I rebuild. I restructure. I hire people who actually care about the mission, not just the paycheck. I create products that families like yours can actually afford. And I prove that you can build something meaningful without selling your soul." Her voice softened. "And if you're still willing, I'd love for you to be part of that. Not as a consultant, we need to keep that separate now for legal reasons, but as an advisor, someone who keeps me honest and reminds me why this all matters." "I'm not sure I'm the right person for that," Ethan said. "You're the only person for that," Ava countered. "Will you think about it?" "I don't need to think about it," Ethan said. "Yes. Absolutely yes." They made plans to meet that weekend, just the three of them, Ethan, Ava, and Lily. No business, no media, just a normal day together, or as normal as their life could be anymore. That Saturday, Ava picked them up in her car, not the company car with the driver, but her own vehicle, a sensible sedan that was several years old and had clearly been well loved. Lily was delighted, immediately declaring that this car was better because it had more personality. They drove to a state park an hour outside Boston, where the December air was crisp and clean and there wasn't a reporter in sight. They hiked a short trail to a frozen lake, Lily running ahead to slide on the ice near the shore, while Ethan and Ava walked hand in hand behind her. "This is nice," Ava said softly. "Peaceful. No board meetings? I fired half the board, remember? The meetings are much shorter now." She smiled, but there was exhaustion in it. "It's strange, you know. I spent so long being terrified of losing everything that I never stopped to ask if what I had was actually worth keeping." "Any regrets?" Ethan asked. "About restructuring the company?" "No. About us? Never." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Though I could do without the death threats from internet trolls." Ethan stopped walking. "Death threats?" "Ava, you didn't tell me. It's just noise," she said quickly. "Online harassment comes with the territory when you're a woman in business who refuses to apologize for her choices. My security team is handling it." "Your security team?" "Ava, this is serious." "I know, but I'm not going to let them scare me into hiding, and I'm not going to let them make me regret choosing you." They watched Lily slide across the ice, her laughter echoing across the frozen lake. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. almost peaceful. I've been thinking, Ava said, about the future, about what we're building. Yeah? I want Lily to be part of it, not in a forced way, not pushing her into something she doesn't want, but I want her to know that she matters to me, that when I think about my future, she's in it. Ava turned to face him. Is that okay? Am I overstepping? You're not overstepping, Ethan said, his voice rough. She's already decided you're part of our family. I'm just catching up. I'm not trying to replace her mother, Ava said quickly. I would never... I know. Sarah would have liked you, I think. She always said I needed someone who wouldn't let me hide behind my own fears, someone who'd push me to be better. He smiled sadly. She'd be laughing at me right now, telling me I'm an idiot if I don't hold on to you with both hands. I like the sound of her, Ava said. You would have loved each other, Ethan agreed. Then, before he could overthink it, he added, she made me promise, before she died, that I'd find joy again, that I wouldn't spend the rest of my life alone just because she couldn't be there. I thought I'd broken that promise, but then you bought me pasta. Ava laughed through tears. Everything comes back to that pasta, doesn't it? Best $50 I never spent, Ethan said, pulling her close. They called Lily over for lunch, sandwiches Ava had made that morning and hot chocolate from a thermos. They sat on a fallen log by the lake, bundled in coats and scarves, eating and talking and being together in a way that felt both extraordinary and perfectly ordinary. Ms. Ava, Lily said suddenly, her hot chocolate mustache making her look even younger than 7. Are you going to marry my daddy? Ethan choked on his sandwich. Lily! What? I'm just asking. Mrs. Chen says it's good to communicate your expectations. Ava's eyes sparkled with amusement. Mrs. Chen is very wise. And to answer your question, I hope so, someday. If your daddy asks me. And if you're okay with it. I'm okay with it, Lily said immediately. When are you going to ask her, Daddy? When the time is right, Ethan managed, his face burning. The time is always right if it's what you want, Lily said with the confidence of someone who'd clearly been spending too much time with Mrs. Chen. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the park, building a small snowman and taking pictures and pretending, just for a few hours, that they were a normal family having a normal day. No scandal, no media circus, no board members or lawyers or people telling them their love was inappropriate or ill-advised. Just them. Just this. As the sun started to set and they packed up to head home, Lily grabbed both their hands, swinging between them as they walked back to the car. I like days like this, she announced. Can we do this every weekend? We'll try, Ava promised. Even when you're super busy being a CEO? Especially then, Ava said, because days like this remind me why all that work matters. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the fresh air and adventure. Ethan and Ava talked quietly in the front, their conversation ranging from the practical to the profound. I have something to tell you, Ava said as they got closer to Boston. I've been working on a new initiative for the company, a scholarship program for kids from low-income families who want to pursue careers in food science, nutrition, or business. Full ride, tuition, books, living expenses, everything. That's amazing, Ethan said. I'm calling it the Sarah Cole Memorial Scholarship, Ava continued softly. If that's okay with you. I thought it would be a way to honor her, to take the loss you've experienced and turn it into something that helps others. Ethan had to pull over, the tears coming too fast to see the road. Ava reached over and held him while he cried, her own cheeks wet. She would have loved that, he finally managed. She always wanted to help people. This is perfect. I hoped you'd think so, Ava whispered. They sat there on the side of the road until Ethan composed himself, then continued home. When they arrived at his apartment building, Ava helped carry a sleeping Lily upstairs and laid her gently in bed. Standing in the doorway of Lily's room, watching Ava tuck the blankets around his daughter with such natural tenderness, Ethan felt something shift in his chest. This was real. This was his life now. This woman who'd walked into a restaurant alone and seen him when he felt invisible was now standing in his home, caring for his child, building a future that included all of them. Stay, he said quietly. Ava turned, surprised. Stay? For dinner. For the evening. Just stay. He swallowed hard. I know it's not fancy. I know I can't offer you what you're used to. But, Ethan Cole, if you finish that sentence with anything about not being good enough, I swear I will make you eat those words, Ava said, but she was smiling. I would love to stay. They ordered pizza and ate it on the couch, talking about everything and nothing. Ava told him about her plans for the company, about the products she wanted to develop, and the people she wanted to hire. Ethan told her about a scholarship program he'd found for adult learners at the community college, how he'd been thinking about maybe taking some business classes, seeing if he could learn more about the work Ava did. You'd be incredible at that, Ava said. You have natural instincts for what people need. That's not something you can teach. I barely graduated high school, Ethan reminded her. So? I know plenty of people with fancy degrees who don't have half your common sense or compassion. Education matters, but it's not everything. They talked until late, until Ava was fighting to keep her eyes open, and Ethan realized she'd had an even longer week than he had. He walked her to the door, reluctant to let the evening end. Thank you, Ava said, for today, for letting me be part of this, for not giving up on us even when it got hard. Thank you for fighting for us, Ethan replied, for choosing this even when everyone told you not to. She kissed him goodnight, soft and sweet and full of promise. I'll always choose this, she whispered against his lips. I'll always choose you. After she left, Ethan checked on Lily one more time before heading to bed. His daughter was sprawled across her mattress, Fettuccine the rabbit tucked under one arm, and Ava Rock clutched in her other hand. Even in sleep, she was holding on to the proof that good things could happen, that kindness existed, that their small family was growing in beautiful, unexpected ways. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Ava. Made it home safe, still smiling, can't wait to do this again? He typed back, every weekend, I promise. Every weekend sounds perfect, came the reply, followed by a heart emoji. As Ethan finally fell asleep that night, for the first time in 4 years he wasn't haunted by what he'd lost. Instead, he dreamed about what he was building, a future that honored the past without being imprisoned by it, a love that was real and complicated and absolutely worth fighting for, a life that looked nothing like what he'd planned but somehow felt exactly right. The storm wasn't over. There would be more challenges ahead, more people questioning their choices, more obstacles to overcome. But they'd weathered the worst of it together, and that had to count for something. It counted for everything. The following Monday, Ethan arrived at work to find the reporters finally gone. The story had been replaced by newer scandals, as Ava had predicted it would be. People's attention had moved on, leaving them to build their life in relative peace. Sal caught him in the shop, a rare smile on his weathered face. The vultures finally flew away, huh? Looks like it, Ethan said. Good. Now we can get back to fixing cars instead of dodging cameras. Sal paused. She's a good woman, your Ava. Takes guts to do what she did. Don't let her go, kid. I won't, Ethan promised. Not a chance. That evening, Ava called with more news. I met with the scholarship committee today. The Sarah Cole Memorial Scholarship is officially approved. First recipients will be selected in the spring. That's incredible, Ethan said, his voice thick. There's more. I want you to be on the selection committee, you and Lily. I want the people choosing these recipients to understand what it's like to actually need help, not just to theorize about it from a distance. Ava, I don't know if I'm qualified. You're the most qualified person I know, she interrupted. Will you do it? Yes, Ethan said. Of course, yes. They talked about the details, about the timeline and the criteria, and how they'd promote the program. But underneath the practical conversation, there was something else, a sense of rightness, of pieces falling into place, of a story that had started with humiliation and loneliness, transforming into something beautiful. I love you, Ava said suddenly. I know we haven't said it much, and maybe it's too soon, but I do. I love you, Ethan. I love Lily. I love this life we're building together. I love you too, Ethan replied, the words coming easier than he'd expected. I think I started loving you the night you bought me pasta. Best meal I ever purchased, Ava said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. That weekend, they returned to the state park with Lily, and the weekend after that, it became their ritual, their escape from the chaos of their lives, the place where they could just be together without performance or pretense. And slowly, carefully, they built something that neither of them had dared to hope for: a second chance at happiness, earned not through luck, but through choice, through showing up even when it was hard, through believing that love was worth the fight. Ethan had walked into that restaurant with $50 and a broken heart. He'd left with something infinitely more valuable: the understanding that sometimes the worst moments in our lives are just the beginning of the best ones, if we're brave enough to stay and see what happens next. And he was done running from happiness, done believing he didn't deserve good things, done letting fear make his choices for him. He was choosing love. He was choosing hope. He was choosing Ava and Lily and the messy, complicated, absolutely perfect life they were creating together. And for the first time since Sarah died, that felt like enough. It felt like everything. Winter melted into spring, and with it came the kind of transformation that happened slowly, almost imperceptibly, until one day you look around and realize everything has changed. The scandal that had once consumed their lives faded into distant memory, replaced by new headlines and fresh controversies that had nothing to do with them. Montgomery Naturals underwent its restructuring with Ava at the helm, and though the process was painful and expensive, the company emerged leaner, more focused, and finally aligned with the values that had inspired its creation. The first product from the new line launched in March: the affordable lunchbox items Ethan had helped develop, priced at points that actual families could manage. They flew off shelves faster than anyone anticipated, and the reviews were overwhelmingly positive. Parents praised the quality, the nutrition, and most importantly, the price. Finally, someone understood what they actually needed. Ethan had enrolled in evening business classes at the community college, showing up twice a week after his shifts at the auto shop to learn about accounting and marketing and organizational management. He was the oldest student in most of his classes, and frequently the most tired, but he'd never worked harder at anything in his life. Ava quizzed him before exams, and Lily made him flashcards with her careful 7-year-old handwriting and elaborate crayon decorations. "You're going to be so smart, Daddy," Lily would say, completely serious. "Even smarter than you already are." "I don't know about that, baby girl," Ethan would reply. "But I'm trying." And he was trying to build a life that was about more than just surviving, trying to be worthy of the second chance he'd been given, trying to show Lily that it was never too late to grow, to learn, to become something more than what you thought you were. The Sarah Cole Memorial Scholarship was announced in April, and applications poured in from across the country. Hundreds of students from low-income families who dreamed of careers in food science or nutrition or business but couldn't afford the education required. Reading through their essays broke Ethan's heart and put it back together again in equal measure. "Listen to this one," he said to Ava one evening while they reviewed applications at her dining room table. Lily was asleep in the guest room, having spent the weekend with them. "This girl from rural Mississippi wants to develop affordable nutrition programs for food deserts. Her mother died of diabetes complications because they couldn't afford fresh food. She's working 3 jobs to save for college." "That's exactly who this scholarship is for," Ava said softly, making a note on her tablet. "What's her GPA?" 4.0, and she's been accepted to 4 universities, but even with financial aid, she can't afford any of them. "Then we make sure she can," Ava said firmly. "That's why we're doing this." They selected 15 recipients that first year, each one representing a story of determination and potential constrained only by economics. The award ceremony was held at Montgomery Naturals headquarters in May, and Ethan stood next to Ava as they presented each student with their scholarship letter and a check that would change their life. One girl, the one from Mississippi, hugged Ethan so tight he could barely breathe. "Thank you," she whispered. "You just gave me my future back." "No," Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. "You earned this. We just removed the obstacles." After the ceremony, as the students and their families mingled over refreshments, Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, I want to do something like this when I grow up." "Like what, baby?" "Help people who need it, like you and Miss Ava do." She looked up at him with those wise, serious eyes. "Is that a good job?" "That's the best job in the world," Ethan told her, pulling her close. Ava joined them, slipping her hand into Ethan's. "You know what I was thinking?" "What's that?" that maybe we should make this an annual thing. But also, what if we expanded? What if we created internship programs at Montgomery Naturals for these students? Give them real work experience, not just money for school. That's brilliant, Ethan said. It's practical, Ava corrected. Education is important, but so is experience. And most of these kids won't have the networks or connections that open doors. We can be those doors. They spent the rest of May planning the expansion, late nights at Ava's house or Ethan's apartment, papers spread across every surface while Lily did her homework beside them. It felt right, this partnership they'd built, professional and personal, each element strengthening the other. But there was one conversation they kept dancing around, one question that hung unspoken between them. It was Mrs. Chen who finally forced the issue. "When are you going to ask that woman to marry you?" she demanded one evening when Ethan dropped off Lily. "You love her. She loves you. Everyone can see it. What are you waiting for?" "It's complicated," Ethan said automatically. Mrs. Chen made a dismissive sound. "Always with the complicated. You know what's complicated? Being alone, being unhappy, wasting time when you could be building a life." She poked him in the chest with one bony finger. "My husband proposed to me after 3 weeks. Everyone said we were crazy. We were married 47 years before he died. You know why it worked?" "Why?" "Because we didn't wait for the perfect moment. We made the moment perfect by choosing each other." She softened slightly. "That girl stood by you when the whole world told her not to. She fought her own board, risked her company, all because she loved you. What more proof do you need?" "I don't have a ring," Ethan said weakly. "I don't have money for—" "You think she cares about a ring?" Mrs. Chen shook her head. "That woman bought you pasta when you couldn't afford dinner. She doesn't care about expensive things. She cares about you." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat at his small kitchen table and thought about everything Mrs. Chen had said. She was right, of course. He'd been waiting for some perfect moment, some sign that he was finally worthy enough, successful enough, healed enough to deserve Ava. But maybe that moment would never come. Maybe he'd spend forever waiting for permission he didn't need. He pulled out his phone and called Ava. She answered immediately. "Hey, is everything okay? It's late." "Can you come over tomorrow?" Ethan asked. "After you're done with work? I need to talk to you about something." There was a pause. "That sounds ominous. Should I be worried?" "No, maybe. I don't know." He took a breath. "Just come over, please." "Okay," Ava said slowly. "I'll be there at 7. Ethan barely slept that night, running through speeches in his head, discarding each one as inadequate. How did you ask someone to marry you when you had nothing to offer but love and a willingness to try? How did you propose when you couldn't afford the kind of ring she deserved? The next day dragged interminably. Ethan could barely focus on the engines he was supposed to be fixing, his mind stuck on the conversation ahead. Sal noticed and sent him home early. "Whatever's eating you, go deal with it," his boss said. "You're useless to me like this anyway." Ethan picked up Lily from school and brought her to Mrs. Chen's, but not before having a serious conversation in the car. "Lily Bean, I need to ask you something important." "Okay," Lily said, immediately attentive. "How would you feel if I asked Ms. Ava to marry us, to be part of our family officially?" Lily's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? You're really going to ask her?" "I'm thinking about it, but I need to know, are you sure you're okay with this? With having another mom?" Lily was quiet for a moment, unusually serious. "She won't be my mom. That was Mommy. But she could be my Ava mom. Is that okay?" Ethan's throat tightened. "That's more than okay, baby girl. That's perfect." "Then yes," Lily said firmly. "I want Ms. Ava to be my Ava mom. When are you going to ask her?" "Tonight, but I need your help." "What kind of help?" Ethan explained his plan, and Lily's eyes went wide with excitement. "That's the best idea ever, Daddy." They spent the afternoon preparing, Lily contributing ideas and enthusiasm, while Ethan tried to keep his hands from shaking. By the time Mrs. Chen came to pick up Lily, everything was ready. "Good luck," Mrs. Chen whispered. "Not that you need it. She'll say yes." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen the way she looks at you, like you hung the moon." She patted his cheek. Now go. Don't keep her waiting. Ava arrived at exactly 7, as promised. She looked tired but beautiful in her work clothes, her hair starting to escape from its professional twist. Ethan's heart hammered as he let her in. "Hey," she said, kissing him softly. "You sounded so serious on the phone. You're kind of freaking me out." "I'm freaking myself out," Ethan admitted. "Come sit down." They sat on his couch, the same threadbare piece of furniture where they'd shared tea and confessions and built the foundation of everything they'd become. Ava took his hand, worry creasing her forehead. "Ethan, what's going on? Are you okay? Is Lily okay?" "We're fine. Better than fine." He took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot lately about second chances. About how I came into that restaurant with $50 and a broken heart, convinced I'd never be worth loving again. And then you saw me. You really saw me. Not what I lacked or what I couldn't provide, but who I was underneath all the fear and grief. Ethan, please let me finish. I need to say this." He squeezed her hand. "You fought for us when it would have been easier to walk away. You risked everything, your company, your reputation, your financial security, because you believed we were worth it. And I've spent months trying to figure out how to be worthy of that sacrifice, how to earn what you gave up for me." "You don't have to earn anything," Ava said, tears already forming in her eyes. "You just have to be you." That's what I finally realized. I don't need to wait until I'm successful enough, or healed enough, or perfect enough. I just need to choose you the way you chose me. He stood up, his legs shaking, and pulled a small box from his pocket. It wasn't from a jewelry store. It was a carved wooden box Ethan had made himself in the auto shop, spending late nights sanding and polishing until it was smooth and perfect. Inside, resting on a cushion of cotton, was a simple silver band, not expensive, not elaborate, but chosen with care from an estate sale. But there was something else in the box, too. A pale blue river stone with white veins running through it. "That's..." Ava's voice broke. "Ava Rock," Ethan confirmed. "Lily insisted. She said it had to be part of this because it brought us together." He knelt down in front of her, the box open in his trembling hands. "Ava Montgomery, I don't have much. I can't give you expensive vacations or a big house or any of the things you deserve, but I can give you my whole heart. I can give you a daughter who adores you and calls you her Ava Mom. I can give you morning coffee and late-night conversations and someone who will always, always choose you first." Tears streamed down Ava's face. "Ethan, I can give you Wednesday dinners and weekend hikes and a life that's real and messy and completely imperfect. And if that's enough, if I'm enough, then I'm asking, will you marry me?" For a moment, Ava couldn't speak. She just nodded frantically, covering her mouth with her hands. "Is that a yes?" Ethan asked, hope and terror warring in his chest. "Yes," Ava finally managed. "Yes, of course, yes. 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then she was pulling him up and kissing him, and they were both laughing and crying at the same time. When they finally pulled apart, Ava looked at the ring and the stone and started crying all over again. "It's perfect," she whispered. "You're perfect. This is perfect." "It's really not," Ethan said. "The ring is secondhand and the box is homemade and it's from you, which makes it more valuable than anything money could buy." She kissed him again. "When did you make the box?" "Over the last 3 weeks. Sal let me use the shop after hours. Nearly sanded my fingers off learning how to do it right. I love it. I love you. I love that you made this with your own hands." She picked up the blue stone, turning it over gently. "And Lily really wanted this included?" She said, and I quote, "Ava Rock is magic because it brought you together, so it has to be part of making you together forever." Ethan smiled. "She's been unbearable keeping the secret, by the way. I'm pretty sure she told Mrs. Chen and half her second-grade class." "Where is she now?" "At Mrs. Chen's, waiting very impatiently to hear how this went." "Then we should go tell her," Ava said, standing up and pulling Ethan with her. "I want to tell our daughter that I said yes." "Our daughter." The words hit Ethan square in the chest. "You really mean that? You want to be her mom?" "Her Ava mom," Ava corrected gently.
I would never try to replace Sarah.
But yes, I want to be whatever kind of mother Lily needs me to be, if she'll have me. She will. She already does.
They practically ran to Mrs. Chen's apartment, holding hands and grinning like idiots. When Mrs. Chen opened the door and saw their faces, she just smiled and called out, "Lily, they have news!" Lily came running, took one look at Ava's hand, and screamed with joy. "You said yes! You said yes!" "I said yes," Ava confirmed, kneeling down to Lily's level. "Is that okay with you?" Instead of answering, Lily threw her arms around Ava's neck and hugged her so tight, Ethan heard Ava gasp. "You're going to be my Ava mom. We're going to be a real family." "We already are a real family," Ava said, pulling back to look Lily in the eye. "But now we get to make it official. And Lily, I want you to know something. I love your daddy so much, but I also love you. Not because of him, but because of who you are.
You're smart and kind and funny and brave, and I'm so honored that you're letting me be part of your life."
"Are you going to live with us now?" Lily asked. Ethan and Ava exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed logistics yet. "We'll figure that out together," Ava said. "The three of us. Because that's what families do. They make decisions together." Mrs. Chen watched the whole scene with obvious satisfaction, then shooed them all out. "Go celebrate. Go be happy. You've earned it." They went back to Ethan's apartment, the three of them curled together on the couch, making plans and dreaming about the future. Lily fell asleep between them eventually, her head on Ava's lap, one hand clutching Fettuccine the rabbit, and the other still holding Ava Rock. "She's keeping that stone," Ava whispered. "I figured," Ethan replied. "But you got the ring. Best trade ever." She looked down at the simple band on her finger, then up at Ethan. "When do you want to do this? The wedding, I mean." "I don't care. Tomorrow. Next year. Whenever you want. How about this summer? Something small and simple. Just the people we actually care about, not some big production for the press." "That sounds perfect," Ethan said. They talked quietly while Lily slept, working out details that suddenly seemed so easy now that the hard part was over. They'd merge their lives slowly. Ava would keep her house, but spend most nights at Ethan's apartment until they could find something that fit all of them. Ethan would finish his business classes. Lily would stay at her current school where she was happy and thriving. They'd get married in the community garden behind Montgomery Naturals, surrounded by the literal fruits of their combined labor. "My parents will probably come," Ava said, though her voice was uncertain. "They've been distant since the scandal, but they'd show up for a wedding. Do you want them there?" "I think so. Despite everything, they're still my parents.
And maybe seeing us happy together, seeing that I didn't throw my life away, maybe it'll help them understand." "Then we'll invite them," Ethan said. "And if they're awful, Sal will throw them out. He's offered to be my bouncer." Ava laughed. "I love that man." "Me too. He's been more of a father to me than my own ever was." 3 months later, on a perfect August afternoon, Ethan stood in the community garden wearing his only suit, the same one he'd worn to that fateful restaurant, now professionally cleaned and altered to fit properly. Sal stood beside him as best man, looking uncomfortable in a tie but grinning proudly. Rows of white chairs held their small gathering, Mrs. Chen in the front row, crying openly. Ethan's co-workers from the auto shop, Ava's restructured board and key employees from Montgomery Naturals, the first 15 scholarship recipients, who'd insisted on coming to support the woman who'd changed their lives. And in the back, looking stiff but present, Ava's parents. But Ethan only had eyes for the end of the garden path, where Ava appeared in a simple cream dress holding Lily's hand. His daughter wore a pale blue dress that matched Ava Rock, which she carried carefully on a small pillow. They decided to walk together, the three of them officially joining their lives. When they reached Ethan at the makeshift altar, Lily handed him the stone. "For good luck," she whispered. "Because it's magic." The ceremony was short and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows, and when it was Ethan's turn to speak, he looked at Ava and somehow found the words. "A year ago, I came to a restaurant with $50 and no hope. I was convinced my story was over, that I'd used up my chance at happiness, and all that was left was survival. but you saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. You saw someone worth fighting for, worth believing in, worth loving. And in seeing me, you taught me how to see myself differently." His voice cracked, but he pushed through. "I promise to see you the same way, not as a CEO or a business leader or any of the titles the world gives you, but as Ava, the woman who buys pasta for strangers and plants gardens for families and believes that kindness is never wasted. The woman who took a chance on a mechanic and his daughter and never looked back even when it cost her everything." He held up the blue stone. "This rock represents the moment our lives intersected, the moment possibility became reality. And I promise to carry it with me always, as a reminder that the best things in life come when we show up with open hearts, even when we're terrified of what we might find." When Ava spoke her vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the garden. "Ethan, you asked me once why I cared so much, why I fought so hard for us when it would have been easier to walk away. The truth is, you made me remember who I was before success and money and board meetings. You reminded me that the point of having resources isn't to hoard them, but to share them. That leadership isn't about power, but about service. That love isn't a transaction, but a choice we make every single day." She took Lily's hands too. "And Lily, sweet, brilliant, brave Lily, you taught me that family isn't just biology. It's showing up, it's caring, it's choosing to see someone and letting them see you back. I promise to be the best Ava mom I can be, to love you and protect you and support your dreams, whatever they turn out to be, and to never, ever let a day go by without telling you how much you matter." When the officiant pronounced them married, the garden erupted in applause. Ethan kissed his wife, and then lifted Lily into their combined embrace while everyone cheered. The reception was held right there in the garden, with food from local restaurants Ava had supported throughout her restructuring and music from a string quartet composed of community college students. It wasn't elaborate or expensive, but it was real and joyful and exactly what they'd wanted. Ethan danced with Ava, then with Lily, then with Mrs. Chen, who cried on his shoulder and told him she'd always known this would happen. Sal gave a rambling, emotional toast that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. Even Ava's parents seemed to thaw slightly, her mother pulling Ethan aside at one point. "I didn't understand," she said quietly. "When Ava gave up so much for you, I thought she'd lost her mind, but watching you together, seeing how you look at her, I understand now. You see her, really see her. Not just what she can provide, but who she is." "She's easy to see," Ethan replied. "She's the most remarkable person I've ever met." "Take care of my daughter," Ava's mother said, and it wasn't a threat but a plea. "Every day," Ethan promised, "for the rest of my life." As the sun set and the party wound down, Ethan found himself standing alone for a moment, watching Ava and Lily dance together in the fading light. His wife and his daughter, his family. Mrs. Chen appeared beside him, following his gaze. "You did good, Ethan Cole," she said. "We did good," he corrected. "None of this would have happened without you pushing me, supporting me, believing in me. All I did was watch you grow into the man you always were underneath." She patted his arm. "Your Sarah would be proud, you know, of how you've honored her memory while still letting yourself live." "I hope so," Ethan said quietly. "I think about her a lot. Wonder if she can see this, if she knows." "She knows," Mrs. Chen said with certainty. "And she's happy for you. Happy you found love again. Happy Lily has someone else who loves her so fiercely. Happy you stopped hiding and started living." As if summoned by her name, Lily ran over and grabbed Ethan's hand. "Daddy, Ava Mom says it's time for cake." Ethan let himself be pulled toward the small but beautiful cake decorated with edible flowers from the garden. Ava was waiting there, her face glowing with happiness. "Ready?" she asked. "For cake or for marriage?" "Both." "Then yes," Ethan said, wrapping his arm around her waist. "I'm ready for all of it." They cut the cake together, fed each other small bites while everyone took pictures, then watched Lily demolish her slice with the enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could muster. As the evening turned to night and stars appeared overhead, Ethan felt a peace he'd never thought he'd experience again. This was happiness, not the absence of pain or difficulty, but the presence of love and purpose, and people who chose you despite your flaws. This was what Sarah had wanted for him, not to forget her, but to let himself be whole again. Later, after the guests had left and they'd said goodnight to a sugar-crashed Lily, Ethan and Ava stood alone in the garden where they'd just promised forever to each other. "So," Ava said, leaning against him, "we did it. We did. How do you feel?" Ethan considered the question. Grateful, terrified, hopeful, in love. All of it at once. "That sounds about right." She turned to face him. "Ethan Cole, you've made me happier than I thought possible. And I promise you, every single day, I'm going to work to deserve this, to deserve you and Lily and the life we're building." "You already deserve it," Ethan said. "You deserve everything good in this world. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know that." They kissed under the stars, in the garden they'd helped plant, surrounded by evidence of the life they were creating together. A life built on kindness and courage and the simple act of showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. 6 months later, Ethan graduated from his business program with honors. Ava and Lily sat in the front row cheering so loudly they disturbed the entire ceremony. The scholarship committee, which now included Ethan as an official board member, had expanded to offer support to 30 students. Montgomery Naturals had posted its first profitable quarter under the new structure, proving that doing good and doing well weren't mutually exclusive. And in a small apartment that had become too crowded for 3 people and all their love, Ethan packed boxes for their move to a new house. Nothing ostentatious, just a modest home with a yard for Lily and an office where Ava could work from home and a garage where Ethan could still tinker with engines because that's who he was and always would be. On moving day, as they loaded the last boxes into the truck, Ethan found the white business card Ava had given him that first night. It was worn and creased from being carried in his wallet for over a year, but the words were still legible. Ava Montgomery, CEO, Montgomery Naturals. He showed it to his wife. "Should I throw this away? I don't need it anymore." "Keep it," Ava said, "as a reminder." Of what? Of the night everything changed. Of how $50 and a willingness to show up can transform your entire life. Of how kindness, real, genuine kindness, creates ripples that extend far beyond the original gesture. Ethan tucked the card back into his wallet, next to a photo of his 3 favorite people: Sarah, smiling at him from the past; Lily, gap-toothed and joyful in the present; and Ava, looking at him with love that promised the future. "Ready?" Ava asked, holding out her hand. Ethan took it, lacing their fingers together. "Ready." They drove to their new home together, Lily singing off-key in the back seat, Ava navigating while Ethan drove, the whole world spread out before them like an unwritten story waiting to be told. And if that story started in a restaurant where a broken man with $50 met a lonely woman who saw past his poverty to his potential, well, that was just proof that sometimes the best chapters begin in the most unexpected places. All you have to do is show up. Be seen. Let yourself be found. The rest, as they say, is just details. And oh, what beautiful details they were.